What if Tensura, the 8th Primordial? Author, 1010-100. When Haru of the Minamoto dies standing after a heroic effort during the Genpei War, he is reincarnated in the world of that time. I got reincarnated as a slime. As a demon? In the Underworld? As a bottom feeder? Watch Haru climb the ranks of the demon ladder and maybe someday stand toe-to-toe with the monsters of the Underworld and the Cardinal World. Chapter 91, Loki, a demon-angel hybrid? Loki maintained his terrifying expression. Inside, however, he sighed in satisfaction. That went rather smoothly. The overwhelming pressure. The massacre. The casual dominance. It had all been deliberate. Yes, he had killed hundreds of soldiers who charged at him shouting about defending the kingdom of Koluz, about honor, about loyalty. But it was fine. He could revive them. No permanent harm done. Probably. His hand lightly touched one of the interlocking horns on his head. The horns were a nice touch. He wasn't entirely sure if altering his appearance like this would have the desired effect. But judging from King Tiat's trembling state, it worked beautifully. He looks thoroughly terrified. Loki leaned back on the throne again. The Western Nations Conference. A small smirk formed. That will be entertaining. Truthfully, the kingdom of Koluz wasn't so bad. A desert nation with trade routes and wealth potential. He had no particular issue with simply overtaking the country and crowning himself king. It certainly beat rebuilding a nation from scratch like the Forest of Jura. That would be troublesome. If possible, he could even recruit Rimuru Tempest as a subordinate. Have him build Jura Tempest properly. Then make it a vassal state of Koluz. A perfect arrangement. Although Koluz. He tilted his head slightly. The name doesn't quite inspire awe, does it? For a desert powerhouse, perhaps something grander would suit it better. Dubai? Saudi Arabia? Turn it into the central hub of wealth in this world. Tempting. But that decision could wait. First, the conference. Elsewhere. Serre and guard were being led down the palace corridor by an attendant. Their footsteps echoed faintly. Serre frowned. Is it normal for there to be no guards stationed here? Guard scanned the surroundings. It is quite surprising. Should you not be concerned for your king's safety? The attendant looked equally confused. It's usually not like this. There are normally hundreds of guards here. I have no idea where they've gone. Serre's expression darkened. I see. They turned into the hallway leading to the throne room. And then, Serre stopped mid-step. His pupils shrank. That presence. Guard's face hardened. Yes. A chill ran through the corridor. Without a doubt, that is the presence of a demon. Serre did not hesitate. Let's move. He broke into a run. Guard followed immediately, leaving the stunned attendant behind. The heavy doors to the throne room came into view. They burst inside, and froze. King Tiat was kneeling. The first Prince Aslan lay on the ground, unmoving, blood pooled beneath him. Seemingly dead. And on the throne sat a demon. Loki blinked in mild surprise. Oh. His golden eyes gleamed. Newcomers. He leaned forward slightly, taking a closer look. Recognition flickered across his face. A beaming smile appeared. Oh? Wait. He clasped his hands together lightly. Might you two be the legendary Holy Knights? Serre drew his sword instantly. The blade gleamed under the fractured chandelier light. A filthy demon dares to casually lounge upon the throne of a king. His voice was sharp. Have you no shame? Guard stepped beside King Tiat, spear ready. King Tiat. Are you all right? Tiat slowly lifted his head. His thoughts spiraled chaotically. You too. Despair tightened around his heart. You are not who I need right now. If there were ever a time for divine intervention, I need the god you serve itself. His hands trembled. You two will serve no purpose other than being killed by this monster. Loki did not rise to Ser's insult. Instead, he tilted his head slightly. You call me a filthy demon lounging on a throne? His golden eyes glinted with amusement. When the god you serve herself is a demon. The air seemed to cool. Is that not hypocritical of you, Holy Knight-san? Ser's expression hardened. I do not know what you are talking about. His grip tightened on his sword. Nor am I interested in the words of a demon. Holy energy gathered faintly around his blade. You exist for one reason right now. To be cut down. By me. Loki's smile widened. Is that so? He rose slowly from the throne, stretching his arms casually as if preparing for light exercise. It won't be that easy. I'm quite strong, you know. Guard stepped forward, spear humming with condensed holy aura. You are but a simple demon lord seed. His eyes were calm, calculating. You do not scare us. Demon lord seed, huh? Loki rolled his shoulders once. I suppose you're not wrong. His expression relaxed. Well. He adjusted the gloves on his hands. I guess there are no more words needed, right? The atmosphere shifted. Holy power flared from Ser and Guard, pushing back against the thick demonic aura saturating the throne room. The cracked walls groaned. The air trembled. 3 powerful beings. 1 throne room. And not enough space for all of them. Elsewhere. In the golden capital of El Dorado. Within the luxurious living room of Demon Lord Leon's castle, a rather unusual sight unfolded. Guy Crimson sat casually in the chair usually reserved for its owner. Across from him stood Leon Cromwell, arms crossed, expression faintly annoyed. On a separate couch, Velzard lounged elegantly, exuding a quiet, frigid aura. And sprawled lazily on another seat was Dino, looking as unmotivated as ever. From the kitchen, faint clattering could be heard. Misery was diligently learning new dishes to cook for Guy Crimson. Leon exhaled. Guy. You know that chair is reserved for me, right? Guy smiled lazily. I know. He patted his lap. Why don't you come sit here instead? Leon's reply was immediate. Not interested. He paused. By the way, that Loki. His brows furrowed slightly. He's a strange demon, isn't he? Guy hummed. In what way? Leon's eyes sharpened. He was genuinely angered by my research involving Otherworlder children. His voice remained calm, but the memory lingered. For a demon, that reaction was unusual. Guy leaned back, red eyes thoughtful. He is a weird one. He tapped his chin lightly. For a demon, he is far too kind. His smile thinned. Even the kindest of demons are not as kind as him. A pause. It's almost as if he isn't a true demon. Velzard's icy gaze shifted slightly. So, she spoke lazily, have you figured out what the case might be, Guy? Guy shrugged. No. He tilted his head. The safest assumption would be that he's half angel. Silence fell. But that would be absurd. Leon immediately nodded. That's impossible. His tone was firm. For one to be both demon and angel? How ridiculous. Velzard's lips curved faintly. I don't know. Her voice carried quiet amusement. It might be possible. Her eyes drifted toward the ceiling. No one truly knows what was going through my brother's mind when he was creating things. A heavy implication lingered. Suddenly, Dino slowly raised his hand. Can I say something? Guy waved casually. Go ahead, Dino. Dino scratched his cheek. Well. He frowned slightly, searching for the right words. I sort of feel a connection with Loki. The room stilled. It's faint. Extremely faint. His eyes narrowed just a bit. But it's there. Both Guy and Leon visibly stiffened. Guy's smile sharpened. That, his red eyes gleamed with interest, is quite the compelling piece of information. Leon's expression turned serious. But it's not enough to prove anything. And if Loki truly was a hybrid, that would mean he has the potential to surpass true dragons and beyond. Velza chuckled softly, the sound cold yet amused. Loki. Her eyes gleamed with curiosity. What an interesting being. Chapter 92, Loki vs. Ser and Guard. The throne room could no longer be called majestic. Cracked pillars. A shattered ceiling. Blood-staining polished marble. And at its center, 3 figures stood opposed. Ser moved first. Holy aura erupted from his body, pure white light flooding the room and forcing back Loki's demonic pressure. Divine slash! His blade traced a crescent of radiant energy, slicing forward with enough force to cleave through fortress walls. Guard followed seamlessly. Sacred impalement. His spear thrust forward, splitting into dozens of converging light lances aimed at every vital point. Their teamwork was flawless. Years of synchronized combat. No wasted movement. No hesitation. Loki watched it all and smiled. Oh? Starting strong. He raised one hand casually. The marble floor beneath him cracked, and from thin air, black metal began to form. Material creation. A sword manifested in his right hand. A second in his left. Behind him, spears, rapiers, and curved blades shimmered into existence. Tiat's eyes widened. He's creating weapons from nothing. The holy slash reached Loki first. He stepped forward. One blade flicked upward. A thin, almost lazy movement, and the divine crescent split cleanly in half. Not dispersed. Not deflected. Cat. Ser's eyes widened. He severed holy energy. The spears of light arrived next. Loki didn't even turn. The floating weapons behind him shot forward automatically, intercepting each lance with surgical precision. The throne room exploded in light and sparks. When the smoke cleared, Loki still stood exactly where he had been. Untouched. He tilted his head slightly. You're fast. Coordinated and efficient. He pointed one blade toward Ser. But you're assuming we're in the same category. In the next instant, he vanished. Guard barely reacted in time, raising his spear to block. A sharp clang echoed. The impact shattered the marble beneath his feet. The shockwave blasted outward, ripping apart nearby pillars. Guard's arm screamed from the force. Too heavy. Loki leaned closer, smiling mildly. You rely too much on reinforcement through holy output. His blade slid along Guard's spear, sparks dancing. Your base physical strength is lacking. He twisted. Guard was launched across the throne room, smashing through a wall and skidding across the courtyard outside. Ser attacked from behind. A perfect angle. A killing stroke. Loki did not even look. Dismantle. A thin, invisible line shot backward. Ser felt it a fraction of a second before impact. He twisted desperately. Blood sprayed. A clean diagonal cut tore across his chest armor, slicing through holy reinforcement like paper. He stumbled back, barely keeping his footing. Loki turned slowly. Oh. Let me explain. He raised a finger. Dismantle is a ranged slicing attack. Extremely fine. Extremely sharp. It cuts concepts if I want it to. His eyes gleamed. I adjusted that one to only slice your armor and skin. You should be grateful. Ser's heart pounded violently. He held back. Guard re-entered through the collapsed wall, bruised but resolute. Do not falter, Ser. They charged together. This time, they layered barriers mid-sprint. Triple casted holy protection. Loki nodded approvingly. Better. He allowed them to close in. Seir's blade descended, and Guard's spear thrust simultaneously. At the last possible instant, Loki stepped between them. Cleave. His left hand caught Seir's blade barehanded. His right palm pressed lightly against Guard's chest. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, Seir's sword shattered. Not chipped. Not cracked. Shattered from the point of contact. Guard's holy armor imploded inward as if crushed by invisible jaws. He was blasted backward again, coughing blood. Loki released Seir's broken blade and brushed dust off his sleeve. Cleave activates upon contact. He smiled faintly. It measures the target's durability and applies the precise amount of force required to overwhelm it. He looked at Guard. I used the minimum necessary. The throne room trembled under the weight of his aura. Seir's breathing grew ragged. This isn't a demon lord seed. Loki's eyes shifted toward the kneeling king. You're quiet, King Tiat. Tiat was shaking uncontrollably. What are you? Loki hummed. Didn't you wonder why that little girl Violet subordinates mean nothing to me? Violet. Seir's mind jolted. Violet, the purple primordial. Did he just call a primordial a little girl? Loki continued casually. Archdemons and demon lords. Those are classifications that were created later. He walked slowly across the ruined hall. I existed before that system. Silence fell. Guard's eyes widened. Before. Loki's smile sharpened. There are levels to demonkind. His aura deepened. The air thickened. Breathing became difficult. Those born from fear and darkness in later eras. He took another step. And those born at the very beginning. The pressure doubled. The throne room floor cracked entirely. Tiat felt warmth spread down his legs. He looked down and realized he had lost control. A wet stain spread beneath him. Primordial. Seir's memories resurfaced. The Saints' briefing. A demon with overwhelming presence. Ancient. Maroon eyes. Unfathomable strength. A being not to be engaged under any circumstances. His pupils trembled. It can't be. Loki's eyes locked onto his. You've been hunting one of us, haven't you? The horns on his head seemed darker now. More real. Tell me, Holy Knight. His smile widened. Which color were you looking for? Seir saw it clearly now. The aura. The density. The absolute control. Not a rising demon. Not a seed. An origin. Fear seeped into his bones. Primordial. Guard's grip on his spear weakened. He's one of the originals. Loki laughed softly. Good. In an instant, he appeared before them both. No sound. No build-up. He tapped Seir's forehead lightly with a finger. You were brave. He tapped Guard's spear and it disintegrated. You were loyal. He stepped back. But you never stood a chance. The entire throne room collapsed inward from the residual pressure of his aura alone. Dust and rubble rained down. When it settled, Seir and Guard lay embedded in the cracked marble floor. Conscious and alive, but utterly defeated. Loki stood above them, weapons dissolving into particles of black light. He exhaled softly. I told you. His golden eyes were calm. There are levels to this. Me and you two exist on two very different planes of existence. Chapter 93, The Stage Worthy of Applause. Silence lingered in the ruined throne room. Dust drifted through fractured sunlight. Seir and Guard lay broken against shattered marble, blood staining what remained of royal elegance. Loki looked down at them quietly. Then, he raised his palm. A small purple orb of energy bloomed into existence above it. It was calm. Compact. Beautiful. Yet the space around it trembled, as if reality itself recoiled. This, Loki said lightly, examining it as though it were a curious toy, is called Hakai. The orb pulsed once. The air distorted violently. It's a technique I've recently created. I'm still testing it. His golden eyes flicked toward them. It erases whatever it touches into nothingness. Say's breath caught. His heart slammed against his ribs. Am I about to die here? Cold sweat ran down his back. Why would Hinata even suggest we fight this monster? The pressure in the room had long surpassed anything they had prepared for. We stand no chance against a primordial. Zero chance, especially one this dangerous. Beside him, Guard groaned. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up. Blood trickled from his mouth, staining his chin. Loki's brow lifted slightly. Oh. He tilted his head. You still have the strength to stand. A faint smile formed. As expected of a holy knight. Guard swayed but steadied himself. Sir. His voice was hoarse. Get up, and run. Say's eyes widened. I'll hold him back, Guard continued, breathing unevenly. Even if it's only for a few seconds. His grip tightened into a fist. You have to live. You have to live and get this information back to Hinata. Say's vision blurred. What are you talking about, Guard? He forced himself onto his knees. I can't leave you here. He staggered up beside him. If anything, you should be the one to run. I'll hold him back. Guard almost laughed. Don't be ridiculous. His shoulders trembled from blood loss. As one of the captains of the Crusaders, it's my job to protect you. Say wiped blood from his mouth. Well, it's a good thing I'm not part of the Crusaders then, isn't it? Guard chuckled weakly. You stubborn kid. Loki watched the exchange with widening eyes. Then, he clapped his hands together once, delighted. Could this be? His voice brightened theatrically. The legendary sacrificing oneself for another act. His shoulders trembled slightly with excitement. You're telling me I get to witness this live? Sayre glared. So we're just entertainment to you, you damn demon. Guard exhaled bitterly. I've never been so humiliated in my life. Sayre's fists tightened. Yes. I just have to land even one hit on this bastard. Loki blinked innocently. Oh. His eyes lowered. But you two don't have your weapons anymore. Indeed. Sayre's blade lay shattered. Guard's spear had long since disintegrated. How exactly, Loki asked gently, are you planning on doing that? Sayre raised his fists. I still have these. Guard mirrored him, raising blooded knuckles. Yes. For a brief moment, the two stood side by side. Bruised. Broken. Weaponless. But unyielding. A tear formed at the corner of Loki's eye. He wiped it dramatically. The spectacular last stand. His voice softened. To think I would one day be on the opposite end of the receiving side. His smile faded into something calmer. Very well. The purple orb vanished. I promise to make your death swift. Guard inhaled sharply. Let me go, Sayre. Sayre nodded. Yes. They stepped forward, and in that instant, Loki disappeared. No sound. No warning. No movement detectable. He simply ceased to exist from where he stood, and reappeared between them. Before either could react, his left palm rested lightly against Sayre's chest. His right palm pressed against Guard's. His voice was almost gentle. Cleave. And then, countless invisible slashes erupted simultaneously. Sayre's holy reinforcement shattered instantly. Guard's defensive aura imploded. Blood sprayed outward in controlled arcs as their bodies were carved by precise, measured strikes, each cut calibrated and deliberate. They were launched backward like discarded dolls. Their bodies crashed through broken pillars and slammed against the far wall of the throne room. The remaining structure groaned violently. Dust rained down. Silence followed. Ser hit the ground hard. Blood pooled beneath him. His breathing grew faint. Beside him, Guard lay unmoving, chest barely rising. The world blurred. Ser stared weakly at the fractured ceiling. It's impossible. His thoughts trembled. It's absolutely impossible. Every lesson. Every year of training. Every battle fought in the name of faith, rendered meaningless. I'm too weak. We cannot beat this thing. Across the ruined hall, Loki stood quietly, looking down at them. Loki suddenly lowered himself to the floor. He sat cross-legged like a spectator at a festival, elbow on his knee, chin resting on his palm. You know, he began casually, the Kingdom of Falmouth classified me as a special rank A threat. His golden eyes flicked toward the two collapsed Holy Knights. The same rank given to the Holy Knights. He smiled faintly. That means you and I are technically the same rank. Good job, you guys. Guard's vision swam. He could not move a single muscle. He's mocking us again. A familiar pressure formed. Loki raised his hand once more. The purple orb reappeared. Hakai. It was larger this time. Denser. The air screamed around it. Well, Loki said softly, it's about time we ended this, isn't it? Far from the center of the throne room, concealed perfectly, Rain watched. Her normally composed expression was gone, replaced with rare panic. If Loki kills two Holy Knights, Lady Luminous will be furious. And if Luminous Valentine was angered, it would ripple. It would reach El Dorado. It would reach Guy Crimson. And if Guy was angered, Rain swallowed hard. He will take it out on me. Her eyes fixed on the swelling Hakai. What can I even do? If Loki truly wanted to kill them, I couldn't stop him. A tremor ran down her spine. What if he killed me instead? The purple sphere intensified. Space bent around it. Reality thinned. Rain inhaled sharply. I have no choice. I have to step in. Suddenly, the Hakai flickered. Then, dispersed. Rain blinked. Who? Loki stared at his now empty palm. A slow realization crossed his face. Actually. His lips curled upward. Me defeating the Holy Knights is a feat that deserves an audience. He glanced around the shattered throne room. Kolu's was remote and insignificant on the world stage. Doing it here would serve no purpose. He stood up. The demonic pressure in the room softened slightly. You too, he said, looking at the barely conscious Ser and Guard. You're in a bit of luck. Ser forced one eye open. Loki's smile was calm now. I'm feeling generous today, so I'll let you live. A pause. But I have terms. The air tightened again. You will return to your fellow Holy Knights. His gaze sharpened. And inform them that in 10 days' time. A faint aura flared around him. I will be waiting at the Barren Lands, also known as the Land of Giants. His smile widened slightly. I shall come alone. You may come together. And we will have a battle for the ages. One that would forever serve as entertainment for the world. Ser's thoughts were hazy. What is he talking about? Before either knight could respond, a magic circle formed beneath them. It pulsed once, and they vanished without another word. Rain remained frozen for several seconds. When no further killing intent emerged, she exhaled slowly. That idiot. Relief washed over her. At least no international incident had occurred. At least not yet. Holy Empire of Lubelius. Within a quiet office lined with religious tomes and tactical maps, Hinata Sakaguchi paced. Her boots echoed sharply against stone flooring. The name Loki lingered heavily in her mind. Information, they lacked it. According to Raisin, the demon-possessed gravity magic was highly proficient in hand-to-hand combat and was skilled in barrier techniques. But even Raisin admitted that is far from what Loki is truly capable of. Hinata stopped pacing. Her eyes narrowed. The biggest threat was not raw power. It was the unknown. Suddenly, a magic circle flared to life in the center of her office. Hinata's hand immediately went to her sword. Two bodies fell out of the circle, crashing onto the floor. Bloodied. Broken. Unconscious. Sare. Her heart skipped. God. She rushed forward instantly. Their life forces were faint, rapidly fading. Without hesitation, she stormed to her office door and flung it open. Get me a medic. Healing potions. Now. Her voice cut through the hallway like a blade. She rushed back to them, kneeling beside Sare first. Hey. Her voice lowered, urgent. Don't you dare die on me. Guard's breathing was shallow. Sare's pulse was weak. Moments later, footsteps thundered down the corridor. Medics burst into the room carrying potions and emergency kits. Glass vials were uncorked. Healing magic activated. Potions were poured carefully between blood-stained lips. Light filled the room. Minutes passed. Then, Sare's breathing steadied. Guard's chest rose more evenly. Color slowly returned to their faces. Hinata exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. They were alive. Chapter 94, Loki meets Velgrind. A few hours later, Sare and Guard had fully awakened. The sterile scent of medicine lingered in the air as both men lay on separate beds within one of the Holy Empire's private medical chambers. Their bodies were heavily bandaged, holy seals layered across their wounds to stabilize their life force. The door opened quietly. Hinata Sakaguchi stepped inside. She did not waste time with pleasantries. Taking a seat beside their beds, she folded her hands and spoke calmly. Sare. Guard. I know this is not a good time to ask this. Her eyes were steady. But it's important, so I'll ask anyway. A pause. What happened? The room grew still. Sare and Guard exchanged a glance. Guard answered first. We made contact with the primordial demon who happens to be our target. Hinata's pupils contracted. A primordial. Sare exhaled slowly. That demon was far too powerful. His voice lacked its usual lightness. Overwhelmingly so. We couldn't even land a hit. Hinata's fingers tightened slightly against her sleeve. And how did you return? Her tone sharpened. Did someone save you and teleport you here? Sare let out a weak chuckle. No. His eyes darkened at the memory. To that demon, the whole world seems to be his playground. He swallowed. He's the one who spared us. And teleported us here. Silence fell. Hinata's brows furrowed. What? Why would he do that? Guard's gaze shifted to the ceiling. Because everything is a game to him. His jaw clenched. Before he teleported us out, he told us he would be waiting for the Holy Knights at the Barren Lands. Sare continued. He said he would come alone. A faint bitterness crept into his voice. Because he wanted a spectacular battle. Hinata blinked. Who? Sare gave a dry smile. That was exactly our reaction. It doesn't make sense at all. Hinata leaned back slightly. So he wants to fight all the Holy Knights at once. It seems so, Guard answered. For a long moment, Hinata said nothing. Then, she stood. Resolve filled her eyes. Well, that's fine. Her voice was steady. Cold. If that's what he wishes, then we shall give him just that. A faint glint passed through her gaze. He will regret underestimating us. She turned toward the door. I will call an emergency meeting with the Holy Knights. Pausing, she looked back at the two injured men. Sir. Guard. I apologize for asking this of you in your current states. But can you attend the meeting so you can share what information you have? Sir nodded immediately. I have no problem with that. Guard followed. I have no problem as well. Hinata inclined her head. Thank you. And without another word, she exited swiftly. The door shut behind her. El Dorado, balcony of the Golden Palace. The wind swept gently across the high balcony of El Dorado. Two figures stood overlooking it. Guy Crimson leaned casually against the railing, red hair swaying slightly in the breeze. Beside him stood Velzard, her icy aura subtle yet ever present. Guy's crimson eyes narrowed faintly. Velzard. I'm pretty sure by now Rudra has heard of Loki. A faint smirk tugged at his lips. And he's sure to be interested. Velzard's expression remained calm. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Guy clicked his tongue lightly. But that means Loki will become a target for Rudra. His gaze sharpened. We cannot let him get his hands on him. Velzard tilted her head slightly. So, what do you think will happen? Guy's smile widened knowingly. I think he'll most likely send Velgrin to recruit him. His eyes gleamed. Knowing Loki, he will surely refuse. A brief pause. Which will lead to Velgrin attempting to take him by force. He then turned his full attention to Velzard. Velzard, you're quite entranced by Loki, aren't you? Velzard's lips curved faintly. I wouldn't call it that. Guy chuckled softly. That doesn't matter to me. He straightened slightly. What matters is that Loki interests you. And that means you most likely wouldn't enjoy seeing the Empire get its hands on him. His gaze sharpened with purpose. So I'll put the guarding of Loki against Velgrind in your hands. A brief silence passed. Is that okay with you? Velzard's smile deepened just slightly. Understood. The 10 Great Saints meeting chamber was heavy with restrained irritation. Stone pillars lined the circular hall, each etched with holy scripture. At the center stood a long crescent-shaped table. All 10 seats were occupied. Murmur spread through the room. This is the second emergency summons in a short time. We have territories to oversee. Training to supervise. Glenda leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs. Hinata. Don't go around abusing your authority now. Her gaze sharpened. We have things to do. Several others nodded in agreement. The atmosphere was tense, but not hostile. Just fatigued. Hinata stood at the head of the chamber. She bowed her head slightly. I apologize for suddenly calling everyone here. Her voice was steady. But what we have to discuss is important. A brief pause. It involves the primordial demon, Loki. The murmurs died instantly. Silence fell like a curtain. Even Glenda straightened. Hinata gave a small nod. Good. She began. Yesterday, Hinata said, Ser and Guard made contact with our target. The doors at the side of the chamber opened. Ser and Guard entered slowly, both still visibly injured though stabilized. A ripple of concern moved through the saints. They were defeated, Hinata continued plainly. Without landing a single decisive hit. The weight of those words settled heavily. Hinata turned slightly. Ser. Guard. Report. Guard stepped forward first. We confirmed that Loki is a primordial demon. A few saints inhaled sharply. Ser continued. His combat ability far exceeds special rank A classification. He demonstrated extreme speed beyond perception. Material creation of high-grade weapons. Advanced barrier manipulation. Precise slash-type techniques capable of bypassing reinforced holy defenses. Hinata's gaze sharpened. Explain the slash technique. Seiya nodded. He calls it cleave. He does not swing a weapon. He places his hand on the target. Then countless calibrated slashes erupt simultaneously. Each strike is measured. Not excessive. Not random. Guard added quietly, it felt like he was deciding exactly how much to cut. The saints exchanged glances. Intent-based output? Troubling. Hinata folded her arms. Continue. Seiya's expression darkened. He also possesses a technique called Hakai. A murmur. What does it do? Glenda asked. Seiya swallowed. It erases whatever it touches. Not burns. Not disintegrates. Erases. Silence returned. Even the most composed among them felt it. Erasure-type abilities were rare. And dangerous. Guard continued. He spared us. That drew more attention than anything else. Hinata nodded slightly. He teleported them back himself. A saint frowned. Why? Seiya answered. He wants a battle. He met their eyes. In 10 days' time. At the Barren Lands, the land of giants. He said he will come alone. The chamber erupted briefly. He's inviting all of us. That's arrogance. Or confidence. Hinata raised a hand. The room quieted. Yes, she said. He intends to fight all holy knights at once. Glenda leaned forward. Is this a trap? Hinata shook her head slightly. Possibly. But his personality suggests otherwise. Seiya nodded. To him, this is entertainment. Guard added, he wants the world watching. One of the saints tapped the table thoughtfully. If he comes alone, we overwhelm him with coordinated formations. Layered holy barriers to restrict movement. Long-range bombardment first. Close-quarters suppression once he commits. Another added, we need anti-teleportation seals across the battlefield. Anchor arrays. Limit spatial manipulation. Hinata nodded. Agreed. Prepare containment grids across a 10-kilometer radius. A different saint spoke carefully. Should we involve the 7 luminaries? The room stilled again. Hinata's expression did not change. I already approached them. And? They declined. A faint crease formed between her brows. They said this is something we should be able to handle ourselves. A low murmur passed through the room. Glenda exhaled sharply. So we prove them right. Another saint spoke, if he is a primordial, conventional holy suppression may not be enough. Hinata nodded. Which is why this will not be a simple clash of power. Her gaze sharpened. He enjoys explaining his techniques. Several saints looked up. Seiya gave a small nod. He does. Then we exploit that, Hinata said. If he views this as a stage, we let him perform. Draw information from him. Force him to reveal more. Analyze in real time. Her eyes moved across each of them. We do not rush. We do not let pride dictate pace. We fight intelligently. A saint asked quietly, and if things go wrong? Hinata answered without hesitation. Then I will engage personally. The room fell silent. No theatrics. No grand declaration. Just certainty. Glenda finally leaned back. 10 days. Hinata nodded. Use them well. She looked at Seiya and Guard. You two rest. Observe. Reconstruct every detail. Then she addressed the room. We will not underestimate him. Her voice was calm, but firm. And we will not lose. The meeting adjourned with heavy determination. The next day, Jura Forest, 9 days before the battle. Deep within the Jura Forest, a familiar cave entrance stood quiet. The air hummed faintly with residual dragon aura. Loki stepped out casually, brushing dust from his coat. His daily visit concluded. Behind him, the presence of Veldora receded back into the cave's depths. Loki stretched lazily. Ah, that was refreshing. He took a step forward, and stopped. His pupils contracted sharply. A towering figure stood not far from the cave entrance. Blue hair. Golden eyes. An aura that scorched the very air around her. The ground beneath her feet seemed to shimmer from heat. Loki blinked once. Then twice. Wait. He leaned forward slightly. Wait, wait, wait. His gaze sharpened. That's the Scorch Dragon. Recognition settled fully. Velgrind, isn't it? Indeed, before him stood Velgrind. Her presence alone distorted the atmosphere. Loki tilted his head. What exactly, he murmured, a faint smile forming, is she doing here? Chapter 95, Loki goes on a date with Velgrind. The air above the Jura forest shimmered faintly. Velgrind studied the young man before her in silence. So this is the new Primordial. Her golden eyes narrowed slightly. His magicule level is abnormal, even for a Primordial. There was no exaggerated aura spilling from him. No blatant display of force. And yet, the density, the compression, the quiet, controlled pressure in his core. He isn't even awakened yet. A flicker of concern crossed her mind. He's too dangerous to leave in Guy's vicinity. She stepped forward. You must be Loki. Loki blinked. Then pointed at himself. Oh? You know me. His expression shifted into a genuinely delighted smile. It seems my popularity is growing by the second. Velgrind did not smile back. I don't know about that. Her voice was calm. Measured. But my name is Velgrind. The heat in the surrounding air rose subtly. And I have a question for you. Loki looked at her for a moment. Then casually sat down cross-legged on the forest floor. Asking politely. I like that. He rested his chin on his palm. Well, I guess answering a question or two wouldn't hurt. Go ahead. Velgrind's eyes flickered past him briefly. Before that, her gaze shifted to the cave entrance behind him. What were you doing in that cave? Loki followed her line of sight. Oh. He glanced back at her lazily. What's it to you? I'm just curious. He shrugged lightly. I was visiting a friend. Velgrind's expression remained unchanged. A friend, huh? Her gaze sharpened. But the only sociable being in there is Veldora the dragon. Loki nodded casually. Yes. That's my friend. Velgrind smiled faintly. I see. A pause. You better not be getting any ideas of unsealing him. Loki tilted his head. Oh. A small grin formed. I already plan on doing so. He looked directly into her eyes. And there's nothing anyone can do to stop me. The temperature spiked slightly. Velgrind's gaze hardened. Do you know who Veldora is? He's a menace. He destroys for fun. Unsealing him would bring chaos and destruction to the world. She stepped closer. If you unseal him, do you think you could control him? Loki chuckled. Control him. He shook his head. He's not my toy. He's my friend. His tone lacked arrogance. Only sincerity. Besides, he continued lightly, I don't think Veldora has any desire to destroy countries right now. He's just incredibly bored. A faint softness entered his voice. I pity him. Velgrin's expression shifted subtly. Friends, her. A small smile touched her lips. It seems my brother has found a good companion. I'm happy for him. Loki's relaxed demeanor cracked slightly. He stood up abruptly. Wait! His eyes widened. Did you just say brother? Velgrin chuckled softly. Yes. Veldora is my younger brother. Her aura intensified for a brief moment. I am a true dragon. Just like him. Loki stared at her. Is that so? He scratched the back of his head. Good for you. Velgrin blinked. That was it? No reverence. No shock. No fear. Just acceptance. She cleared her throat lightly. In any case, I won't stop you from attempting to free Veldora. A brief pause. But understand this. You will be responsible for whatever he does once he's free. Loki nodded casually. Okay. Velgrin fell silent. Interesting. Most beings would either tremble or boast. This one did neither. But this is perfect. Her eyes sharpened slightly. If I can bring Loki to our side, and if he truly can influence Veldora, then we would have something close to checkmate against Guy. She shifted the conversation. As for my question, the forest suddenly grew unbearably hot. Birds scattered from the treetops. The earth cracked faintly beneath her feet. A suffocating draconic pressure blanketed the entire area. Even the distant monsters instinctively fled. Velgrin's eyes locked onto Loki's. What is your relationship with Guy Crimson? Her voice lost all warmth. Bear in mind. Her aura sharpened into killing intent. Your answer could potentially lead to your death. If he is already aligned with Guy, then I will eliminate him here. The pressure intensified. Enough to crush most demon lords. Enough to shatter cities. Loki stood still. For a moment there was silence. And then he blinked. That red-haired pretty boy. Velgrin's brow twitched almost imperceptibly. Loki scratched his cheek. I wouldn't say we have a relationship. He tilted his head thoughtfully. He's interesting. A faint grin appeared. Strong. Fun. His eyes gleamed faintly. I plan to fight him someday. A pause. But that's about it. The forest remained tense. Velgrin studied him carefully. No deception and no lies were coming from him. Just honest curiosity. And if Guy ordered you to stand down, she asked coldly. Loki smiled. Why would I listen to him? His eyes sharpened slightly for the first time. I don't belong to anyone. The air around him shifted. A quiet assertion of independence. Velgrin watched him closely. He's unaffected. Not even awakened, and yet her dragonic haki had not shaken him. It seems I underestimated just how capable this primordial is. Slowly. The suffocating pressure receded. The forest exhaled. I see. She folded her arms. So you are unaffiliated. For now. Loki grinned. Unaffiliated sounds cool. Velgrin turned slightly, the flames in her aura calming. Then allow me to make you an offer. Her golden eyes glanced back at him. The Eastern Empire values strength. And those who possess it. If you have no loyalty to Guy. She met his gaze fully. Then perhaps you should consider standing with us instead. The forest was still recovering from the pressure Velgrin had unleashed. Leaves smoldered faintly at their edges. The air trembled with residual heat. Loki stood there calmly. Looks like that training really paid off. A faint smile tugged at his lips. After that humiliating moment with Guy, when Guy Crimson had suppressed him effortlessly with sheer haki, Loki had swallowed his pride and sought help. Not from Guy. From Velzard. He had gone to Velzard and bluntly requested training. Specifically, to be suffocated in her haki until he learned to remain calm under overwhelming pressure. It had been brutal. Cold. Crushing. Merciless. But effective. Now, standing before another true dragon, Loki felt no tremor in his breathing. No distortion in his thoughts. Only clarity. She inhaled slowly. I don't know if Guy has told you, but he and Rudra of the Eastern Empire have been engaged in a long-running game. Her eyes sharpened. A game that uses the mortals of this world as pieces. Loki's smile faded slightly. Join me and Rudra. Her voice turned firm. Help us destroy Guy. And win the game. Silence lingered between them. A game, hey? Loki looked at the sky briefly. That's quite messed up, isn't it? He glanced back at her. Even though the offer doesn't sound that bad. He scratched his cheek thoughtfully. It's not like I have ties to Guy or anything. A pause. But I'm going to have to refuse. Velgrin's eyes narrowed. Refuse. Loki nodded. I haven't even explored everything in this part of the world yet. And you want me to relocate to the Eastern Empire? He shook his head lightly. I'm afraid not. Velgrin studied him carefully. You understand I am a true dragon. And yet you would still refuse me. Loki met her gaze directly. You are a dragon. Yes. He smiled faintly. But none of that matters to me. Velgrin stared at him. This guy? For the first time in a long while, someone besides Rudra had spoken to her without calculation, fear, or reverence. It felt oddly refreshing. She exhaled quietly. Fine. You want to experience the rest of the world before considering my offer, correct? Well, Loki replied lightly, that's about the gist of it. Velgrin's golden eyes glinted. All right. Then I will help you experience the world. A beat. And after that, you will give me your answer. Loki blinked. Then straightened. Wait. You'll go with me? Well, yes. She folded her arms. It will also allow me to monitor you. Loki's eyes sparkled. So. He leaned forward slightly. This is like a date. Velgrin froze internally. What in the world is wrong with this demon? Outwardly, her expression remained composed. Think of it however you please. But we should not take long. I am a busy woman. Loki looked at her, really looked at her. Blue hair flowing like flame. Golden eyes sharp yet dignified. An aura that radiated absolute supremacy. Traveling the world with a beautiful woman. Is this not the dream of all men? He cleared his throat. Fine. I accept. Velgrin nodded once. Good. Then we leave immediately. The sooner this concludes, the better. Loki stretched casually. Wow. You are such a bossy date, Velgrin. She turned her gaze toward him again. You continue to speak so casually to a true dragon. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Do you have no fear at all? Loki didn't hesitate. Zero. For a moment. They simply stared at each other. A primordial demon. And a true dragon. Then. Velgrin turned. Follow me. The air ignited around her form as space began to distort. Loki stepped forward with a grin. 9 days before the battle at the Barren Lands. And Loki had just gained the most dangerous travel companion in the world. Chapter 96, A Date with a Dragon. The palace of El Dorado shimmered beneath an artificial sky of crimson light. Within a grand chamber lined with glass and gold, two ancient beings sat across from one another. Between them lay a board. Carved pieces. Intricate symbols. A wargame older than most civilizations. Guy Crimson moved a piece lazily, resting his chin against his knuckles. Opposite him, Velzad observed the board in silence. Then she paused. A subtle flicker crossed her expression. Her eyes widened just slightly. And then she smiled. Guy's crimson eyes lifted. Velzad. He leaned back. That scary smile on your face. He tapped a piece idly. Did something happen? Velzad's smile deepened. Well, yes. Her gaze remained distant for a moment. You predicted it would happen. But it happened sooner than I expected. Guy's eye sharpened faintly. Your sister? Velzad nodded. She has made contact with Loki. A beat of silence. Then Guy gave a soft chuckle. Oh. That was fast. He tilted his head. So. Planning on going to stop her? Velzad shook her head calmly. No. I'll trust Loki to refuse her himself. Guy's brows lifted. Are you crazy? What makes you so certain he'll say no? Velzad's gaze returned to the board. She moved a piece gracefully. Because he still has much to do here. She continued evenly. You see, Guy. I've spent quite some time observing Loki. Her eyes softened slightly. I believe I have an accurate assessment of him. A pause. Trust me when I say he will refuse. Guy stared at her for a long moment. Then sighed. Fine. I'll take your word for it. His expression darkened slightly. But understand this. If Rudra gets his hands on Loki, his finger pressed against the board, we lose the game. His voice lowered. And if Rudra somehow acquires enough souls for him, and Loki evolves into a true demon lord, the air in the chamber shifted. His power would become unparalleled. Velzad let out a small laugh. Guy. She studied him. Why does it seem like you're scared? Guy scoffed lightly. I'm not scared. His gaze sharpened. I'm honoring a promise. To Veldanava. The name lingered between them like an echo of a bygone era. I've been deliberately preventing Loki from evolving. Velzad's eyes flickered. Preventing? Guy nodded. I believe he isn't ready. For the power that comes with it. His voice turned colder. Loki is immature. Impulsive. He acts without considering consequences. He looked directly at Velzad. Someone like that should never be given godlike power. Velzad rested her chin lightly on her hand. But isn't that his charm? A faint smile touched her lips. I don't think Loki would do anything foolish. Guy's expression hardened. Unfortunately, Velzad. I am not as enamored with him as you are. Silence. I cannot risk it. His eyes glowed faintly. That demon's potential rivals mine. A pause. Perhaps even surpasses it. He leaned back again. For now. His potential should remain sealed. Velzad did not argue. But her smile did not fade. The Western nations were peaceful this time of year. Trade routes bustled. Markets overflowed with color. The scent of baked bread and roasted meat drifted lazily through the streets of a prosperous border city. And into this perfectly ordinary scene walked a primordial demon and a true dragon. Velgrind had suppressed her aura completely. Her hair was tied loosely behind her back. She wore refined but modest traveling attire, elegant without screaming authority. The only thing she could not conceal were her eyes, golden, sharp, impossible to mistake as ordinary. Beside her walked Loki, hands behind his head, whistling. "So," he said cheerfully, "where are we going first, my lady?" Velgrin did not look at him. "We are not sightseeing for amusement. We are observing." Loki leaned slightly closer. "That's what dates are, you know." She stopped walking. "This is not a date." He blinked innocently. "You said I could think of it however I please." A pause. "You are insufferable." They resumed walking. The market district. The market square was alive with chatter. Merchants advertised wares loudly. Children ran between stalls. Adventurers bartered for potions and equipment. Loki immediately grabbed Velgrin's wrist and pulled her toward a food stall. "Try this." She stared at the skewer of grilled meat he held toward her. "I do not require sustenance." Yeah. Dragon metabolism and all that." He took a bite first. "See? Not poisoned." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "That is not what I meant." But after a brief pause, she took the skewer. A small bite. She chewed thoughtfully. The vendor, unaware of the cosmic scale beings before him, smiled nervously. "Well?" Loki asked. Velgrin swallowed. "I guess it's acceptable." He gasped dramatically. "High praise." She turned away to continue walking. But she did not discard the skewer. They then continued on to tour the entire Western nations in a single day, thanks to teleportation. Rooftops at sunset. Later, they stood atop the tiled rooftops overlooking the city. The sun dipped low, casting gold across stone and glass. Loki sat casually at the edge, legs dangling. Velgrin stood behind him, arms folded. "You enjoyed yourself," she said. "Of course I did." He leaned back on his palms. "Traveling with a beautiful woman across the Western nations." He glanced at her. "How could I not?" She felt oddly unbothered by the compliment. Annoyed, yes. But not insulted. "And you cling too closely, Loki. I'll have you know I already belong to someone," she noted. He had, at multiple points, grabbed her hand to pull her toward street performers, insisted she try desserts, and stood entirely too near while speaking. "I'm establishing atmosphere," he replied. "Atmosphere?" "Yeah." He grinned. "Memorable experiences. That's what makes a date good." She walked past him. "I am not concerned with making memories." Most beings trembled before her. Most could barely breathe properly in her presence. But he walked beside her, spoke casually, teased her, and did not flinch. Velgrind was not unaware of it. No fear. Not recklessness. Not ignorance. Just genuine absence of fear. It was refreshing. A lakeside town. By nightfall, they had moved again. A quiet lakeside settlement. Lanterns floated across the water. Music drifted from a distant tavern. Loki lay back on the wooden pier, staring at the stars. Velgrin stood with her arms crossed, gazing at the moonlit lake. "Tell me something," Loki said. "What?" "Have you ever traveled like this before?" "I have traveled extensively." "I don't mean for duty." Silence. "For no reason. Just because." She did not answer immediately. "No." He smiled softly. "Then this is your first proper date." She shot him a look. "It is not." He chuckled. "You're smiling." "I am not." "You are." A faint twitch at the corner of her lips betrayed her. She exhaled slowly. You are far too comfortable around me. And I could incinerate this entire town without effort. Loki turned his head to look at her. But you won't. Her gaze met his. Why are you so certain? He shrugged. Because you're not that kind of dragon. A pause. And if you were? He smiled lightly. I'd stop you. There was no bravado in his voice. Just fact. Velgrin studied him. Does he truly believe that? Is he an idiot? Morning, departure. The next morning came quietly. They stood at the edge of a mountain pass overlooking vast stretches of the western nations. Cities. Rivers. Roads. Life. Velgrin stepped forward. That concludes this detour. Loki blinked. Oh. She turned toward him fully. The date is over. He placed a hand over his heart dramatically. I'm wounded. Stop it with the jokes, please. Her expression grew serious. You have seen the Western nations. You have experienced what you claimed you wished to explore. The wind lifted her hair. It is time. Her golden eyes locked onto his. For you to answer. No teasing now. No lightness. The playful detour had ended. A true dragon stood before him once more. Well, Loki. Will you join us? Or not? Elsewhere, the domain of blank. In a separate dimension bathed in pale, oppressive light. Most, the pressure leaking from within was suffocating. Cold. Sharp. Unforgiving. Because? Blank was angry. Moss swallowed. Blank Sama? His voice shook. Are you all right? From behind the door came a calm voice. Dangerously calm. Don't make me angrier, Moss. A pause. How could I possibly be all right? Her tone sharpened faintly. I haven't seen my little brother in so long. Of course I'm not okay. Moss lowered his head quickly. Why yes, of course you aren't. That is my failure. Silence settled again. Inside the chamber. Blank sat alone upon an elegant throne of white crystal. Her silver hair cascaded down her shoulders. Her eyes gleamed thoughtfully. The only plausible explanation is that he has fully manifested in the Cardinal World. A slow smile curved her lips. How naughty. Little brother. Her fingers traced the armrest, leaving big sister all alone. Her gaze sharpened. Moss. Yes, blank Sama. New objective for my lineage. Her smile widened. Get me to the Cardinal World. Under any circumstance. A chill ran down Moss's spine. Understood. I will begin preparations immediately. He bowed deeply and vanished at once. Blank remained alone. Don't worry. Her voice softened. Little brother. Her eyes glowed with anticipation. Big sister is coming soon. Chapter 97, The Choice of Loki. The sky above the western expanse was a clear blue, dotted with faint wisps of clouds. The sun shone brightly, glinting off the tips of Loki's dark wings as he hovered a few meters above the ground, eyes fixed on Velgrind. The air trembled slightly under the weight of their power, the subtle pulse of Haki and magic energy pressing against the trees surrounding the clearing. A hush fell over the forest. Even the wind seemed to pause, as if sensing the confrontation about to unfold. Velgrind's golden eyes narrowed, her wings stretching slightly, radiating authority and strength. If you come to the Eastern Empire, she said firmly, her voice carrying through the quiet, I will ensure you get a favorable position. You will answer only to me and Rudra. I will give you your own private army and the freedom to do as you please. I think these terms are pretty favorable. Loki tilted his head, considering her words, a faint smile curling at the edges of his lips. After a moment, he chuckled softly. Sorry. But I'll have to refuse. Velgrin's eyebrows flicked in surprise, but she remained poised, waiting. None of those terms sound attractive to me, Loki continued, his tone shifting to smug amusement. First, I wouldn't answer to anyone. Neither you nor Rudra. Secondly, I hate having subordinates since it's so much work. So a private army doesn't really tempt me. And finally, his face grew even more smug, eyes gleaming, I will do whatever I want whenever I want. I don't need your permission to do so. With that, he spread his wings fully and launched into the sky. He hovered above Velgrind, looking down at her with the faintest smirk. See, just like how I feel like looking down on you. I'll do it because I want to. Velgrind's lips curved into an irritated smile, her fingers flexing slightly as she stood her ground. A mere demon dares to spew such words. You do understand who it is you are speaking to, right? Loki's eyes narrowed, yet a subtle glimmer of amusement shone in them. Listen to me, and listen well. My name is Loki Arashi, the god of trickery. I who has existed since the beginning of time. I who am at the pinnacle of all races. A mere lizard does not scare me. Velgrind's gaze softened for a fraction of a second, her expression unreadable as she studied him. This demon, he's quite a cocky one, isn't he, she thought. Then she steadied herself, voice firm again. Fine. If you won't come willingly, then I'll drag you to the Eastern Empire by force. It doesn't matter to me whether you are Veldora's friend or not. Loki's smile widened, the breeze ruffling his hair and feathers as he hovered effortlessly. I'd love to see you try. Inwardly, he considered the encounter with a sharp focus. Guy is stronger than Velgrind. Depending on how I do against her while I'm not evolved, I'll be able to measure just how far I am from Guy. The clearing fell silent once more, the tension between the two palpable. Bird circled above, unsettled by the aura of two mighty beings poised for conflict, yet neither moved further. This was a standoff of wills, pride, and power, each testing the other without lowering their guard. The sky cracked from pressure. Heat distorted the horizon in shimmering waves as scarlet light bled into the clouds. The earth below groaned under invisible weight. Loki hovered high above the plains, wings spread wide, maroon hair dancing wildly in the violent wind currents. His maroon eyes reflected the figure standing far below him. She stood effortlessly upon the fractured ground, long blue hair swaying behind her like a banner of war. One hand rested at her side. The other glowed faintly. Calm. Unhurried. As if this were already decided. Loki exhaled slowly. Don't clash head-on. Measure. Adapt. Survive. Velgrind's voice drifted upward, carried by heated air. Are you going to attack first, or should I? It doesn't matter either way. Loki smiled. I think I'll attack first. He vanished. The sky split into fragments of motion. In an instant, 100 golden ripples formed behind him. Weapons. Spears. Blades. Lances. Halberds. Every single one forged through his unique skill, prototype. They fired all from blind angles. From above the sun's glare. From below her shadow. Velgrind lifted her gaze. The air around her shimmered. And ignited. A rotating mantle of condensed flame spiraled around her body like a living crown. Each weapon that entered its radius melted before touching her. Steel became liquid. Liquid became vapor. The sky glittered with evaporated iron. Loki reappeared to her left. A black greatsword already mid-swing. She stepped forward. 2 fingers caught the blade. It glowed red. Then white. Then it exploded in Loki's face. He flipped backward, coat smoking, and vanished again before the follow-up strike could erase him. A narrow beam of scarlet energy carved through the space he'd occupied. It continued for miles. The distant hills detonated seconds later. Loki reappeared upside down behind her. Another ripple. This time not dozens. Hundreds. Blades poured from the sky like a meteor storm. At the same time, 10 Lokis landed around her. Identical. Realistic down to the fluctuation of aura. Velgrin's eyes shifted slightly. Realistic clones. Interesting. All 10 moved at once. Some charged directly. Others flanked. The sky rain of weapons descended simultaneously. A perfect multi-layered assault. Velgrind exhaled. The temperature spiked violently. A pulse of compressed heat erupted outward. Like a sun blooming. The clones closest to her disintegrated instantly. 2 survived long enough to strike. Their blades made contact and stopped. Her skin glowed faintly. The swords liquefied in their hands. She moved. A single step. One clone's torso caved inward from a palm strike. Another's head vanished from a precise kick. Above, the raining weapons entered her thermal field and curved. Every blade redirected mid-air, their metal glowing as she seized control of their heat distribution. They turned. And fired back. The real Loki appeared mid-flight just in time to see his own storm screaming toward him. "Oh, you're good." He spun, wings tearing through air at blinding speed. He darted between his own weapons, letting several collide and detonate behind him. A spear grazed his shoulder. It burned. Not normal heat. It was penetrating. She's embedding destructive magic into thermal vectors. Velgrin. Loki felt it too late. Her heel slammed into his side. The sound wasn't flesh hitting flesh. It was like a fortress wall collapsing. He shot downward, carving a canyon through the plains before regaining control mid-skid. He laughed. "Ha ha ha. Okay, that one hurt." She landed gently dozens of meters away. "Are you laughing?" she asked. "Do you still not understand the situation you are in?" "Why wouldn't I laugh?" Loki tilted his head. "I'm having fun." Another ripple formed behind him. This time, chains manifested. Blackened, engraved with sealing formulae. They fired from multiple dimensions simultaneously, phasing in from blind angles, locking onto her limbs and torso. For a split second, they wrapped. The ground beneath her feet cracked. Loki's eyes sharpened. "Got you." The chains glowed red. Then white. Then they evaporated. She stepped forward through the fading steam. "Attacks on that level will not affect me." The air around her condensed. A sphere of crimson light formed in her palm. Loki's instinct screamed. He multiplied. 50 clones erupted outward in all directions, scattering across the sky and ground, each generating fresh waves of weapons to obscure her line of sight. The sphere pulsed once. And fired. It didn't explode. It erased. Everything in its path vanished in a straight line extending beyond the horizon. Dozens of clones disappeared instantly. The real Loki barely avoided total annihilation by twisting sideways at the last conceivable moment. The beam grazed his wing. Flesh and feather vaporized. He spiraled uncontrollably. She appeared above him. Palm downward. Fall. A gravitational pulse of pure thermal pressure slammed him into the earth. Trees replaced stone. They had reached the outskirts of the Jura forest. Loki crashed through the canopy, shattering trunks upon impact before skidding violently across the forest floor. He forced himself upright. Breathing rough now. One wing partially regenerated but unstable. She descended through the burning hole in the canopy. unscathed. The forest around her ignited in perfect circles, flames forming elegant patterns rather than chaos. Enough, Loki. I don't want to kill you. But if I'm forced to, I won't hesitate, she admitted. Loki smiled. No. I'm still far away from fully enjoying myself. Hundreds of portals bloomed behind him. Led in tears. Each one releasing weapons of increasing density and magical reinforcement. Massive constructs forged mid-air. They launched in synchronized waves. At the same time, clones emerged from the forest itself. Some underground. Some from treetops. All attacking in flawless coordination. Velgrin's gaze sharpened. She stepped back. Her aura flared violently. Scarlet fire erupted upward, forming massive draconic wings of flame behind her, shaped purely from heat and energy. The temperature skyrocketed. Weapons entering her domain detonated before reaching her. Clones ignited instantly. She extended both arms. Rings of compressed solar fire expanded outward like spinning halos. Trees evaporated. The ground turned glass. Loki darted through the chaos, barely maintaining cohesion as the battlefield transformed into a burning wasteland. He appeared behind her. Twin black lances forming in his hands. He thrust them toward her spine. She caught both shafts under her arm without turning. Her elbow drove backward into his ribs. Something shattered inside him. Before he could escape, her hand grabbed his face and slammed him into the molten earth. Once. Twice. 3 times. Each impact cratered the forest deeper. His clones dissolved. His weapons vanished. The sky's ripples faded. She lifted him by the throat. His regeneration was slower now. You avoided direct confrontation because you knew you couldn't defeat me, she said quietly. But you still believed you could outplay me. Loki tried to grin. She punched him across the face. Another strike to his abdomen folded him completely. She released him. He collapsed. Barely conscious. She walked toward him slowly. Flames dimmed around her. She reached down to grab him. But suddenly the temperature dropped instantly. Frost spread across molten glass. Flames froze mid-flicker. Scarlet met pale blue. A calm voice echoed through the ruined forest. Sister. Ice crystallized across the shattered trees like blooming flowers. After all these years? I still don't like you. Velgrin did not turn immediately. But her smile sharpened. Chapter 98, Sisters of Frost and Flame. Velgrin's lips curved slowly. Velzard. It's been a long time since we last met, hasn't it? Across from her, the silver-haired beauty stood calm, pale blue eyes cold as eternal winter. Ice coiled gently around her feet, spreading outward in controlled dominion. If it isn't the dog of Rudra. The words landed softly. Velgrin's eyes sharpened. Dog. She chuckled lightly. Wouldn't that title also apply to you? Dog of Guy Crimson. The air between them warped. Velzard laughed, amused. Velgrind, she said evenly, I think you've done enough now. You can leave. Her gaze drifted briefly toward Loki's broken body. Or the consequences will be dire. Velgrin chuckled again. What? Did you expect me to cower and run away? The fire around Velgrin's feet spread. I'm not leaving here without Loki. Velzard's expression didn't change. That's too bad. Because Loki belongs to us. Velgrin's eyes flickered. Oh? But according to Loki, he doesn't belong to anyone. A faint smile tugged at her lips. Velzard, your behavior is quite disturbing. Velzard's voice became colder. Then, Velgrind, there is nothing left for us to discuss, is there? The temperature plummeted violently. The sky darkened, and Velzad transformed. Her body expanded in a surge of ancient power. Ice erupted outward in a colossal spiral as her form elongated, scales of pale sapphire reflecting frozen starlight. Vast wings unfurled, blizzards forming with each movement. The white ice dragon dominated the sky. Velgrind looked up at her sister with a small smile. "I guess we've never seen eye to eye anyway." Scarlet fire detonated outward. Her body ignited majestically. Flames condensed into draconic scale and shape, forming a radiant titan whose presence warped the horizon itself. The Scorched Dragon answered the call. Two primordial beings. Frost and flame. Opposites. Equals. The sky cracked as their auras collided. Velgrind moved first. The Scorched Dragon folded one vast wing and vanished, reappearing in a streak of compressed red light that tore across the firmament. The trail she left behind glowed like a wound in the sky. Velzad did not retreat. She inhaled. The surrounding temperature plummeted so violently that the air fractured into visible shards. A dome of condensed absolute zero bloomed around her, elegant and silent. Velgrind's talons met it. Flame met frost. The collision erased everything. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. No heat, no cold, just a vacuum where opposing dominions cancelled each other out. Then the shockwave came. Mountains far beyond the horizon trembled. Rivers reversed their flow. Birds fell mid-flight, stunned by pressure alone. Velzad's tail lashed out, coated in layered glacial armor. It struck Velgrind across the torso. The Scorched Dragon twisted mid-air, absorbing the impact, using its momentum to spin and drive her wing like a burning blade across Velzad's flank. Ice cracked. Flame sputtered. Neither yielded. "You've grown more reckless," Velzad observed, her voice echoing like winter wind across an endless tundra. Velgrind's eyes burned brighter. "And you haven't grown at all." Velgrind opened her jaws. A focused stream of condensed thermal distortion, so concentrated the space around it bent like glass near a forge, carved forward in a spiraling lance. Velzad's pupils narrowed. A single breath escaped her more. White. Pure. Her exhale froze the very concept of motion before her. The crimson lance slowed, then crystallized mid-advance into a sculpture of suspended destruction. Velzad flicked a claw. The frozen inferno shattered into harmless scarlet snow. The fragments rained across the lands below like falling stars. In the holy empire of Lubelius, inside a cathedral washed in prismatic light, luminous Valentine paused mid-step. The stained glass windows rattled. A goblet trembled in her hand, dark wine rippling with concentric waves. My. She murmured softly. "The sisters are arguing again." Her eyes drifted toward the distant horizon where the sky pulsed faintly between red and white. If they escalate any further, even faith may freeze. She smiled faintly, but her fingers tightened around the glass. In El Dorado, Guy Crimson rested his chin on his palm. A thin smirk curved his lips. The sky beyond Leon's domain shimmered faintly with distant tremors. Foo. His golden eyes gleamed. "They're holding back." He tapped one finger lightly against his armrest as another distant shockwave rippled through dimensions. "Good girls." His smile widened. "But if they tear the continent in half, I'll have to step in, and that would be terribly annoying." Back in the sky, Velgrind surged upward, spinning violently. Rings of compressed flame manifested around her like orbiting halos. Each ring rotated at a different velocity, distorting gravity itself. She snapped her wings outward. The rings launched as collapsing suns. Each orb condensed inward as it traveled, drawing heat from everything it passed. The ocean below hissed and parted, steam columns erupting like geysers. Velzad's wings unfurled fully. Her presence deepened. The moisture in the atmosphere obeyed her silently. Ice formed with geometric precision. Vast hexagonal shields layered themselves before her like an infinite mirror. The first collapsing sun struck. The shield did not melt. It rang like a cathedral bell forged from glacier. The second orb hit. Cracks spiderwebbed outward, frost evaporating into shimmering mist. The third. Velzad raised her claw and tapped the air. The shield rotated and redirected. The collapsing sun veered off course, shooting harmlessly into the upper atmosphere where it burst into an aurora of light. Velgrind clicked her tongue. "You're still hiding behind walls." Velzad vanished. Velgrind's instinct screamed, but it was too late. Velzad appeared above her, descending like divine judgment. Frost gathered around her claws, compressing inward until her talons gleamed with a translucent sheen darker than space. She struck. Velgrind crossed her wings. Impact. The sound did not travel through air, it traveled through reality. The ocean far below parted cleanly for miles before crashing back together in titanic waves. Velgrind roared, pushing upward, flames detonating from every scale. The two dragons locked mid-sky, fire and frost spiraling violently around them in opposing helices. In the continent of ice and snow, at the forgotten capital of the giants, de Gruel stood atop a cliff overlooking fractured stone plains. The earth beneath his feet vibrated rhythmically. He crossed his massive arms. HMPH. A fissure split the ground several kilometers away. Those lizards. He exhaled heavily. If they intend to reshape the continent, they should at least finish what they start. Elsewhere, a pink-haired girl laughed as the wind whipped violently around her. Milim Nova hovered in the sky, eyes sparkling with delight. Wow! So cool! A distant explosion painted her face red and white in alternating flashes. They're going all out. She leaned forward eagerly. Should I join? Should I? Should I? The continent trembled again. Milim giggled. Nope. I'll watch. If they break it, it'll be more fun to fix later. Back on the battlefield, Velgrind twisted free, flipping backward and slamming her tail downward. A spiral of rotating flame shot toward Velzad like a drilling dragon of pure combustion. Velzad inhaled sharply. Her eyes glowed brighter. The space before her solidified into a frozen corridor. The flaming spiral entered it and slowed. Velzad clapped her wings once. The corridor shattered into thousands of angled prisms, redirecting the spiral into the sea in a harmless cascade of steam explosions that towered into the heavens. Velgrind grinned. Velzad's lips curved faintly. They rushed each other again. Claw met claw. Wing struck wing. Their movements were no longer wide and theatrical. They became precise, measured, each collision redirected upward. They fought like forces of nature. Velgrind dove low, skimming across the ocean's surface. The water boiled beneath her path. Velzad chased, frost spreading across the sea behind her, freezing the boiling wake into jagged sculptures. The two spiraled upward again, then stopped. Hovering. Breathing. The sky above them glowed in streaks of red and white auroras. Neither bore significant injury. Velgrind's eyes narrowed slightly. You haven't dulled. Velzad's gaze remained calm. Nor have you. Below them, the world trembled yet remained intact. Wind roared between them as the atmosphere struggled to stabilize. The sisters floated in silence. The storm they created circled the continent like a crown. And somewhere far below, a faint golden radiance lingered in the forest where Loki had fallen, unnoticed. The frost dragon and the scorched dragon rose higher into the fractured sky, and the world held its breath. Below them, Loki lay broken. Breathing shallow. Magicules leaked from his body like evaporating mist. His vision blurred. So this is it, ho. He tried to lift a finger. It trembled. At this stage, I'm nowhere near the level of Guy. The admission didn't hurt. It clarified. I kind of knew it before, but actually experiencing it puts it into perspective. Above him, the sky howled as draconic power tore clouds apart. His chest rose weakly. But I shall take this learning experience to heart. His consciousness dimmed. Darkness wrapped around him, and Loki lost consciousness. Suddenly, the sky detonated. A burst of gold erupted from the forest floor, pure divine radiance. The shockwave blasted outward in a spherical expansion, freezing Velzard mid-descent and halting Velgrin's incoming inferno. Both dragons' pupils contracted simultaneously. What is that? The golden light intensified. The forest below disintegrated from overwhelming sanctified pressure. Within the epicenter, a figure rose. Loki's broken body lifted from the ground. Cracks along his skin sealed instantly. His tattered clothing dissolved into particles of light and reformed into an immaculate white radiant outfit befitting a holy knight, layered with flowing divine fabric and subtle golden armor plating that shimmered with sacred inscriptions. His hair grew longer, flowing freely down his back and turning gold. His eyes opened. They were no longer maroon, they were luminous gold, calm and ancient. A gentle, confident smile spread across his face. He looked upward at the two dragons suspended in the fractured sky. Don't worry, Master, his voice echoed differently now. We shall take care of the rest. The air trembled in reverence. Velgrind felt it first. This isn't a demonic presence. Velzard narrowed her eyes. This pressure. It was neither playful nor chaotic. It was absolute. The golden radiance condensed around Loki like a halo forged from compressed starlight. Magicules across the entire Jura forest bent toward him instinctively. The dragons slowly lowered their altitude without realizing it. For the first time, caution entered their ancient hearts. As Loki fell into slumber, he forcefully awakened into his angel form. And the Mana's ultimate skill, Loki, Lord of Divine Farce, took over. Primordial. The sky split once more. But this time, not from destruction, but from divinity. And the war between sisters had just gained a third sovereign. Chapter 99, Lord of Divine Farce. Golden light poured through the canopy of the Jura forest like judgment made visible. The trees bent away from it. The ground surrendered. Loki hovered inches above the earth, long golden hair drifting as though submerged in holy water. His white garments shimmered faintly, not reflecting sunlight, but generating their own. His eyes held no mirth now, only divinity. What insolence, he said softly, though his voice carried across the forest as if spoken from the heavens. Mere lizards, daring to claim ownership over our master. The air tightened. We shall not let such disrespect remain unpunished. High above, the blue dragon halted mid-motion. Velgrind's vast form cast a burning shadow over the land. Impossible! She murmured, staring down. An angel. Loki is an angel. Beside her, frost spiraled in slow arcs around Velzard's immense body. Velzard chuckled quietly. So Guy's theory was correct. Her cold eyes narrowed. Loki truly is half angel. She paused. And that ever-increasing magicule count, it's approaching the level of a true dragon, is it not? Below them, Loki slowly turned his head, not to the sisters, but elsewhere. But first, he said calmly, raising one hand, before we deal with you, we must punish those who dare refer to themselves as God while our master exists. His palm faced the horizon. Velgrind frowned. What is he doing? Velzard's gaze sharpened. And what is happening with his speech? Is this truly Loki? Light gathered and condensed. A singularity of holy radiance formed at the center of his palm. The air around it distorted from absolute authority. The forest fell silent. Then, it fired. A beam of condensed light tore through the sky. No sound. No warning. It simply disappeared beyond the horizon. Far away, within the holy empire of Lubelius, inside a cathedral bathed in stained glass illumination, luminous Valentine felt it a fraction too late. Her eyes widened. A thread of light pierced straight through her chest. She looked down. Just a clean, immaculate hole of golden radiance passing through her body and the sacred hall behind her. What is this? Before comprehension could settle, another beam struck. And another. And another. Each pierced her from different angles, passing through layers of multi-layered holy barriers as if they were decorative curtains. The cathedral walls erupted in shafts of descending gold. These beams, she whispered, staggering slightly. They pass through our barriers with relative ease. Her lips trembled faintly. Just what is this? The holy city shook as columns of light rained down with surgical precision, targeting only her. Back in the Jura forest, Loki lowered his hand and scoffed. Such weak barriers are not enough to stop us. His golden eyes gleamed coldly. Stay there and disintegrate, you fake god. A sudden gust swept through the clearing. Velza descended first. The frost dragon's immense form shimmered and folded inward. When she touched the ground, she stood in human form, long silver blue hair flowing gently, her expression unreadable, but with displeasure etched across her features. She stepped forward. Who, she asked flatly, the hell are you? Her aura pressed outward, compressing trees into crystalline sculptures. And what have you done with Loki? Velgrind followed, flame spiraling inward as her colossal form condensed into that of a tall woman cloaked in red and gold. Heat radiated faintly from her presence, the grass near her feet smoldering before reigniting stubbornly. She studied Loki with sharp curiosity. So Loki is an angel, huh? This is an intriguing development. Velzad's eyes did not leave him. It seems he's been taken over by his own power. A faint frown touched her lips. Is Loki truly this weak? The golden figure tilted his head. You shall. The air cracked. Know your place. Velgrin chuckled softly. Well, whoever you are. Loki is an angel, you know. She stepped forward casually, though the earth beneath her feet blackened. And angels are meant to submit to true dragons. Her eyes glinted challengingly. Are you really set on going against the natural order for the sake of your master? Loki's smile sharpened. Your rules do not apply to our master. The wind stopped. He exists outside your reality. Golden light pulsed outward in a controlled ring. To suggest submission. His eyes flared. Do you truly wish to accelerate your death? Velzad exhaled slowly. It's pointless, Velgrind. Her aura cooled further. Clearly Loki has been overtaken by his skill. She studied the radiance surrounding him. And it appears, quite loyal. Her gaze hardened. The only way to stop him now is to beat him. Velgrind rolled her shoulders once, flames licking faintly around her arms. I agree. She glanced at her sister sideways. But you can feel it too, can't you? Velzad nodded once. Of course. Her voice was steady, but her pupils had narrowed sharply. In just a few minutes. Loki has surpassed us. A pause. He has exceeded the output of a true dragon. The forest creaked under pressure. This makes no sense. Velgrind's lips curved slowly. A primordial demon angel. She looked back at the golden figure hovering before them. I suppose any power less than this would be unacceptable. Loki spread his arms slightly. Radiance cascaded downward like falling feathers of light. You are right. We are not our master. We are merely an extension of his soul. His voice echoed in layers now. Our sole purpose is to protect our master from harm. The golden aura intensified. And we have determined you too, as threats. The ground beneath his feet lifted, stones rising and orbiting in slow, reverent arcs. Therefore, The sky above Jura Forest split open with converging halos of condensed light. We shall move accordingly. Velzad stepped forward first. Velgrin stepped beside her. Velzad did not take her eyes off the golden figure hovering before them. Sister, she said calmly, frost spiraling faintly around her fingertips, shall we put our differences aside, just this once? Velgrind exhaled through her nose, heat shimmering faintly around her. I was thinking the same thing. Her lips curved slightly. With the two of us, we can surely defeat him. Golden light pulsed. It is pointless, Loki replied, his voice layered and resonant. We are stronger than you. His gaze shifted toward Velgrind. But if you still wish to try, we would appreciate it if Velgrind would take us seriously. A faint tilt of his head. Do you intend to fight us while not at full power? Velgrind's eyes narrowed. The temperature spiked for a fraction of a second. This thing. She muttered. It figured out my parallel clones. Loki's golden eyes gleamed. It does not matter. Once we are done with you, we shall eliminate the other versions of yourself as well. Velgrind smiled. Those were not the words of someone bluffing. Big words for a mere skill, she said lightly. But fine. The flames around her deepened in hue. I shall take you seriously. In the Eastern Empire, within a vast chamber adorned in imperial gold, Emperor Rudra stood at ease, one hand resting on the pommel of his sword. How is everything progressing, Velgrind? He asked casually. Beside him, the blue-haired woman paused mid-step. For a brief instant, her eyes shifted. Rudra, she said quietly, it seems my clone has encountered a complication. She turned. I must leave you for now. Rudra arched a brow. Oh? Care to elaborate? There is no time. I will explain when I return. He studied her for a second longer, then nodded. Very well. Go. Flames flickered, and she vanished. Rudra remained alone. A slow smile spread across his face. Amana's, just like me. His eyes gleamed thoughtfully. Loki, you will be crucial in the revival of Veldanava. In the Jura forest, a distortion rippled in the air. Flames spiraled inward, and Velgrind's aura swelled. She opened her eyes and smiled. There. The pressure in the forest multiplied. Both my clones have fully returned. The ground cracked beneath her heel. I am now at full power. The golden radiance before her intensified in response. We see. Loki extended one hand. Well then, shall we begin? Velzad stepped forward. Of course. She raised her hand gently, and the world stopped. Wind halted mid-gust. Leaves froze in the air. Light itself seemed suspended. Loki's golden figure stood motionless. Velzad had just casually frozen time. Velgrind walked forward casually, flames flickering lazily around her shoulders. Well, she said, peering at him, that's disappointing. Velzad approached as well, crystalline frost forming delicate fractals along the ground. If he cannot convert his physical form into information particles, then this fight is already over. Velgrind folded her arms. And here I thought I needed full power. She clicked her tongue lightly. So the only frightening thing was his absurd magicule count. A faint smirk. A farce. Silence. Stillness. Then, the golden figure flickered. Velzad's eye sharpened. What? Loki vanished. The frozen forest cracked with a microscopic fracture. Behind Velzad, light reassembled. A construct of pure radiance formed, its outline identical to Loki. You cannot possibly hope, it said calmly, to keep one who moves at the speed of light frozen in time. Velgrind's pupils contracted. Impossible. In the next instant, a streak. Loki appeared beside Velgrind, golden leg already in motion. By the way, he said conversationally, Have you ever been kicked at the speed of light? Impact. Just an instantaneous displacement of space. Velzad's body bent around the strike, and she vanished. The forest behind her tore open in a perfectly straight corridor stretching beyond the horizon. Mountains in the far distance split silently. Then sound returned, a delayed thunderclap that flattened miles of trees. Velgrin stared at the path carved through the world. So it was not a farce. Heat rolled off her in waves now. It seems your power is the real thing. Golden eyes turned toward her. One down, Loki said softly. Radiance gathered again around his limbs. One to go. His voice layered deeper. We shall not go easy on you. Velgrin smiled. Flames erupted skyward behind her like wings. Good, she said. Neither will I. And the forest braced itself for impact. Chapter 100, Fake Gods. The Cardinal World trembled from pressure. An invisible weight pressed against reality itself, vast, luminous, absolute. It radiated from a single point in the west, and the world felt it. Within the floating capital of the sorceress dynasty of Thalion, high above the forests, Empress Elmesia Liu Sarian paused mid-sip of her tea. The porcelain cup cracked from mana pressure. Her emerald eyes narrowed slightly as she gazed westward, through layers of reinforced magical space. How vulgar, she murmured softly. But there was no annoyance in her voice, only interest. Her long elven ears twitched as she expanded her perception. Ancient runic arrays flared across the city's defensive framework in automatic response. An angel, she whispered. No. Not merely an angel. The density of magicules distorting the western sky was climbing past Demon Lord class, past Awakened. Her smile deepened. How fascinating. Below her balcony, court magicians dropped to one knee, overwhelmed by the radiant pressure crossing continents. Why, Your Majesty, should we activate the Great Boundary Array? Elmesia waved a lazy hand. No. Her eyes gleamed with dangerous amusement. If that thing wishes to test my kingdom, it may try. Far to the south, golden sands shimmered beneath a flawless sky in El Dorado. Within the Palace of Eternal Sunlight, 5 ancient beings felt it at once. The air itself bent. Wine in crystal goblets vibrated. A faint golden hue painted the horizon. Seated casually in a grand hall, Guy Crimson tilted his head slightly, then smiled. Oh. Across from him, Leon Cromwell slowly lowered his glass. That direction is the Jura forest. A heavy silence settled over the chamber. Reclining lazily against a pillar, Dino cracked one eye open. Can't a guy nap in peace? But even he didn't sound bored, he sounded awake. Beside Guy stood the Primordial maids. Rain narrowed her eyes, analytical and sharp. Misery remained silent, but her fingers tightened subtly. Leon spoke quietly. That mana output is approaching true dragon levels. Guy chuckled softly. Approaching? His crimson eyes gleamed like a predator catching scent. No. He leaned back in his throne. It already passed that threshold. The golden sky pulsed again. Even El Dorado's space trembled faintly. Dino exhaled. That's angelic. Guy's smile widened. Yes. A pause. And not just any angel. In the vast lands of monsters, countless beings froze mid-motion. Meijin, Kijin, and ogres all looked toward the sky instinctively. Even the great beasts felt it, a declaration, a judgment. In the deepest section of the forest, ancient dryads trembled. It feels like divine punishment, one whispered. The morning sun gleamed innocently over the holy empire of Lubelius, its city of Lune radiant under the translucent sheen of protective barriers that had stood for generations. Markets bustled, magicians hummed incantations of maintenance, and patrol battalions marched in stately precision. Within the core of the empire, the Western Holy Church, led by Hinata Sakaguchi, oversaw both spiritual rites and military operations. Today, however, silence simmered beneath the surface, an unease that even seasoned commanders could not shake. Then the sky split. Not with a rumble or thunder, but with a flash of impossibly pure white light, a beam descending like divine focus. The barrier that protected the capital, the shield no attack had ever pierced, shivered like a whisper against steel. The citizens below gasped as an immense beam of golden radiance struck the ground outside the city. Towers of light tore through fields, forests, and rolling plains toward the heart of the empire. Each strike was deliberate and precise. Then another. And another. Just pillars of holy light plummeting from the sky, immortal and relentless. In the capital courtyard, holy knights drew their weapons, faces pale behind gleaming helmets. Soldiers and mags on patrol stilled as distant explosions shook the ground, shaking the city of Lune like a cradle in an earthquake. "The holy barriers are failing," shouted a senior Rook genius, his voice barely above a panic-stricken rasp. He cast reinforcement runes desperately, but to no avail. Magic that once repelled unique threats, demon armies, and ancient calamities now dissolved before the assault like mist under sunrise. A grim silence followed. An entire section of the outer wall vanished, melted into radiant dust at a single strike. From the citadel balcony, Hinata stood rigid. Her violet eyes narrowed, repulsion and steely resolve hardening her features beneath the morning glow. Hinata didn't waste a second. Her voice, calm yet authoritative, carried across the courtyard like steel tempered in ice. "Deploy Holy Knight battalions and Rook geniuses. Standard formation Delta A, hold every perimeter. Protect civilians and collapse inward only if ordered." The Holy Knights saluted and moved like living instruments, precisely drilled, obedient to every command. Behind her stood Nicolas Spertus, Cardinal and Shadow Strategist of Lubelius, his expression twitching only once as barriers collapsed on the far horizon. "Light assaults of this purity and magnitude," he murmured softly, "piercing through our barrier without disruption. This is not ordinary light." Hinata's gaze hardened. "Can we protect Lubelius from this threat?" High above the clouds, impossibly far yet impossibly near, a figure glowed in blinding brilliance. He wore robes of immaculate white and gold, eyes like twin suns burning with serene clarity. He did not descend. He simply existed there, and his voice rippled across the world like scripture made audible. "To all who worship false gods." His words were neither angry nor haughty, just absolute. "Your faith is a mockery next to our master." Below, shockwaves tremored outward from his presence. Mountains quaked. Oceans rippled. The air burned with pressure alone. His next words resonated. "You shall kneel, or be erased." In the deepest sanctum of her palace, Luminous Valentine, ruler of Lubelius and worshipped as the deity of the luminous faith, was struck mute. Her heterochromatic eyes, one crimson, one sky blue, blinked in disbelief as radiant beams tore through defensive wards designed to withstand even dragon-level attacks. She placed a hand over her mouth. "That power is not light as we know it." Her voice was measured, but her heart thundered beneath. No longer content with defense, offensive orders rolled forth. 3,000 holy knights were dispatched toward the breaches. Rook genius units teleported to vulnerable districts. Magic barriers flickered into place, but each dissolved upon contact with golden strikes. Citizens fled, church bells tolling in grim warning. Hinata planted her boot on a shattered stone, raising her blade high for command. "Leonard! Fritz! Arnor! Lightus and guard! Gather all available Crusader units and bring them here. We protect the capital by holding the remnants of the western perimeter." The paladins obeyed instantly, holy runes blazing on their armor. They were trained for hellfire. Not the light itself turned into a weapon. But not all watched from afar. In the grand temples of the 7 luminaries, ancient master clerics once revered above kings, alarms blared. They had trained the greatest generation of knights. And now? Their most sacred city was being torn apart by a force not seen since the Great Tenma War. One luminary, face grave, spoke into the astral mirror. Summon all seven. The threat is not a demon lord. It is something beyond even the ancient texts. There was a long pause. Then every temple bell of their hidden sanctuaries tolled in unison across seas and kingdoms, a summon centuries overdue. The world now knew the true threat, and they were moving. In the shattered streets of Lune, smoke curled beneath arching rays of golden light that cut the sky like impossibly perfect spears. Hinata stood shoulder to shoulder with her elite knights, Nicholas at her flank. Behind them, the city's last intact barriers flickered in desperate brilliance. Hinata's voice was low. Enemy sighted. No negotiations. Her eyes burned, not with hope, but certainty. We fight. And above the empire, at the very zenith of the sky itself, the angelic golden figure spread his radiant arms. Not a threat. Not a conqueror. A judgment. Prepare. The golden light listened to no command, only purpose. Chapter 101, The Desperate Battle of Lubelius. Lubelius burned in gold, with light so pure it erased shadow itself. High above the capital city of Lune, the angel hovered, robes of white and gold flowing as if stirred by a wind no one else could feel. 6 radiant wings formed from compressed light fanned out behind him, each feather a blade, each glow an executioner's promise. Below him stood the might of the Holy Empire. And they did not kneel. At the forefront, coat snapping in the wind, stood Hinata Sakaguchi. Her expression was not fearful, it was irritated. Enemy confirmed, she said evenly. Angel-class entity. Unknown origin. Intent, hostile. Her blade cleared its sheath with a metallic whisper. Behind her, the 10 great saints formed ranks. Leonard, Arnor, Fritz, Gard, Lightus, Ser, and the others ignited their holy auras in a layered formation. Sacred sigils spun around their bodies as barrier after barrier stacked into a cathedral of light. 3,000 holy knights locked shields. The Rook geniuses began a synchronized chant, glyphs expanding across the sky like an inverted constellation. Hinata raised her sword. Begin. They struck first. A cathedral-sized magic circle flared beneath the angel, binding chains of faith launching upward. Lances of consecrated light pierced the sky, each one capable of vaporizing calamity-class monsters. The sky detonated. Light collided with light. The shockwave flattened the outer districts of Lune. When the radiance cleared, the angel hadn't moved. He tilted his head slightly. Is that it? His voice rippled across the battlefield like silk dragged over steel. With a lazy motion of his fingers, the holy lances reversed direction. The saints barely reacted in time. Leonard screamed an order. Barriers layered, sacred walls stacking 12 deep. The reflected spears struck. The first 6 barriers disintegrated. The next 4 cracked. The last 2 shattered like stained glass. The explosion carved a trench through the plaza, hurling knights through stone and cathedral columns alike. Loki exhaled softly. You wield light like children clutching candles. Golden rings formed behind him, hundreds, no, thousands. Each ring birthed a blade of condensed photons. They hovered for a heartbeat, then descended. The sky became a guillotine. Holy knights were forced into full defensive formations. Sacred arts erupted everywhere, purification fields, absolute defense constructs, anti-angel domains. It didn't matter. Each blade struck with surgical precision. Armor melted without heat. Shields dissolved into harmless dust. Men and women were blasted into the earth by blunt force shockwaves of concentrated luminescence. Hinata moved. She blurred forward, crossing hundreds of meters in a single breath. Her blade glowed with holy energy, aimed directly at the angel's core. There was no hesitation, this was execution. Her strike connected, and passed through an afterimage. She pivoted instantly. The angel stood behind her now. "You are fast," he admitted. A single finger pressed gently against the flat of her blade. The sword vibrated violently, cracked spiderwebbing along its holy enchantments. Hinata's eyes widened. A pulse fired, sending her crashing through 3 buildings with stone erupting skyward in her wake. Dust rose. Silence fell. The saints roared and charged as one. Arnor's absolute defense field enveloped the battlefield. Fritz invoked multi-layered offensive sorcery. Leonard enhanced every knight simultaneously. They were fighting at 100%. Loki drifted lazily through their combined assault, stepping between beams, redirecting spells, and letting explosions bloom harmlessly against his radiance. "You fight beautifully," he said almost fondly. A wave of light burst outward, blowing every saint backward. The holy knights collapsed en masse. Even Hinata, emerging blooded from the rubble, dropped to one knee. Their full force was being overwhelmed. Suddenly, a new presence split the air. "That's enough." The battlefield stilled. From a ripple in space emerged luminous Valentine. Her heterochromatic eyes shimmered, one crimson, one sapphire. Divine power rolled off her in dignified waves. At her side stood Roy Valentine, silent and watchful, alongside the stoic knight Louis Valentine. Luminous surveyed the devastation, her beautiful face unmoving. "You shine very brightly," she said coolly. "But you lack refinement." Loki smiled down at her. "You," he replied, "are still alive." "How persistent." The air sharpened. "You built a nation upon borrowed divinity," Loki continued, his voice carrying mock sympathy. "How quaint. How fragile." Luminous' smile turned razor thin. "I do not need to shout my power to prove it." She stepped forward. The air behind her distorted with pressure equal to demon lords, ancient and unyielding. "You, however, scream insecurity." Loki laughed, not loudly, but the sound vibrated across the ruined city. "We are heaven made manifest." His wings expanded. "You are a pale imitation." Roy shifted slightly, ready to intercept. Louis' grip tightened on his blade. Hinata struggled upright behind them, furious but silent. The air between angel and vampire queen burned with tension. And then, another presence descended. A man stepped from a distortion in space, eyes sharp with centuries of calculation, Granbel Rosso. His gaze locked onto Loki. "Absurd," he murmured quietly. Even through his composed exterior, there was no hiding it. The angel's magicule output was monstrous, beyond an awakened demon lord, beyond any measured scale. Luminous didn't look at him. "Only you?" she asked coldly. Granbel did not answer immediately. The silence said enough. Her expression darkened. The other 6 couldn't be bothered. Her voice dropped to a lethal softness. "Replaceable." The temperature around her plummeted despite the golden light. "I will deal with them personally." Granbel stepped forward slightly, eyes never leaving Loki. "This being," he said quietly, "is not simply an angel. It is something closer to a concept." Loki spread his wings wider, bathing the broken empire in holy radiance. "You may bring saints." He looked at Luminous. "You may bring false gods." He looked at Granbel. "You may bring relics of forgotten wars." His smile sharpened. "It changes nothing." The ground cracked under the pressure of his descending aura. Below him, Luminous Valentine stepped forward. No more playful divinity, no more composed goddess. Her aura exploded outward in a storm of crimson and sapphire, divine class magicule surging like a tidal wave of blood-soaked moonlight. The ground blackened beneath her heels as vampiric authority saturated the battlefield. Beside her, Granbel Rosso closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, the air screamed. An ancient hero's light ignited around him, not warm and gentle like a saint's, but sharp and absolute. Behind Luminous stood Roy Valentine and Louis Valentine with weapons drawn, silent and prepared to die if necessary. Loki tilted his head. Oh. His smile curved lazily. So the props wished to move first. Roy vanished, reappearing directly at Loki's flank with his blade wrapped in condensed holy vampiric fusion energy, a paradoxical art refined over centuries. Louis followed half a heartbeat later from the opposite angle, his thrust aimed at Loki's core. It was perfect synchronization. Loki didn't look at them. He simply raised one hand, and the air crystallized. Roy's blade stopped a centimeter from Loki's throat, frozen in a lattice of refracted photons. Louis' thrust shattered against a wall of light so thin it was nearly invisible. Loki sighed softly. Your devotion is admirable. His fingers closed, and the light lattice collapsed inward. Roy was hurled downward like a comet, smashing into the plaza and carving a crater that swallowed marble and stained glass alike. Louis tried to retreat, but a beam of concentrated radiance struck his shoulder, detonating in a blossom of white-gold brilliance. He crashed beside Roy with armor melted and body smoking. 2 heartbeats, that was all it took. Loki finally glanced downward. Inconveniences removed. Luminous' smile vanished completely. The sky darkened as a blood-red moon manifested overhead, eclipsing the golden halo with suffocating divinity. Luminous rose into the air, long hair flowing like a living shadow. Her voice lost its mockery. Enough playing. Space folded around her. An ocean of crimson magicule surged outward as the authority of a true demon lord was unleashed without restraint. Every drop of blood within a kilometer answered her call. Tendrils of scarlet energy coiled toward Loki, each one capable of draining life and corrupting spirits simultaneously. Granbell moved. He stepped forward into the storm, his holy blade igniting with blinding brilliance. Heroic oath, manifest. A pillar of ancient light erupted around him, carving through luminous blood tide to form a counterbalance, sun against moon. Together, they attacked. Luminous crimson sea crashed upward. Granbell's holy blade split reality itself as he lunged, striking directly at Loki's chest. The collision tore the sky apart in gold, red, and white as 3 colors devoured Lubelius. Shockwaves vaporized what little remained of the cathedral district. Sacred statues dissolved into dust mid-air. Even the horizon fractured like cracked glass under pressure. Granbell's blade met Loki's palm and stopped. The hero's eyes widened slightly in disbelief. Loki's fingers tightened around the blade's edge. You carry centuries of regret in this swing, Loki observed calmly. A pulse of light surged through the blade. Granbell was blasted backward, skidding across the air itself before slamming into a ruined spire. Luminous blood tide engulfed Loki fully, a crimson sphere swallowing him whole. For a moment, the world saw only red. Then, a star ignited within it. The sphere ruptured outward in a silent supernova of golden radiance. Luminous shielded herself with layered divine barriers, 12, 20, 50 layers stacking in rapid succession. They shattered one by one. She was forced back, her heels carving trenches through the sky. Loki stepped out of the fading explosion as if emerging from mist. You call yourself a god of faith, he said softly, his wings flaring wider. Is this all a god is capable of? Granbell reappeared behind Loki mid-flight, blade descending in a strike that once felled demon lords. Loki leaned slightly to the side, and the blade missed by inches. A backhand of pure light caught Granbell across the torso. The explosion of impact distorted the skyline. The elder luminary crashed into the earth coughing blood, his holy aura flickering violently. Luminous roared with her composure gone, her eyes glowing violently as she invoked her full vampiric authority. The red moon intensified. Shadows thickened into blades. Die! The command carried conceptual weight. Thousands of shadow spears launched simultaneously, each guided by divine calculation. Loki didn't dodge, his body dissolved into photons. The spears passed harmlessly through him as he reformed behind her instantly. You mistake brilliance for arrogance. A single kick at light speed struck Luminous squarely in the abdomen. The impact detonated like a miniature sun. Her body tore through layers of reinforced space before smashing into the distant capital wall, the entire structure collapsing around her. Granbell forced himself up again, his aura flaring one final time. "Monster!" He charged. Loki appeared before him in a flicker. A palm touched Granbell's chest, and a beam erupted point blank. The resulting blast split the battlefield in two. Granbell fell from the sky with his cloak torn, body broken, and holy aura extinguished. Silence fell. The red moon flickered weakly before dissipating entirely. Luminous dragged herself from the rubble with blood trailing from her lips, her divine aura unstable. Granbell knelt amid shattered stone, breathing raggedly. Roy and Louis remained unconscious in their crater. Above them, Loki hovered untouched and untested. His wings folded slowly. "We expected more." His voice was not angry, simply disappointed. Luminous glared upward despite her condition, her pride burning brighter than her injuries. "This is not over," she hissed. Loki's smile returned. "For you?" His golden eyes gleamed. "It already is." The ruined capital of Lubelius lay silent beneath heaven's false sun. Chapter 102, Loki vs. Velzard and Velgrind. The Jura forest was still bathed in fire and ice. Trees lay uprooted from earlier shockwaves, and the earth bore long scars where dragon fire had kissed it. Wind moved cautiously through broken canopies. High above the clearing, light hung in the sky like a second sun. Loki hovered there, wings stretched wide, gold radiance bleeding from him in controlled, measured streams. Below him, a trench still smoked. At its center stood Velgrind. Her hair fluttered in heated currents, her aura rolling off her in waves that warped the air. A faint bruise colored her cheek where Loki's earlier kick had landed. She touched it once, then smiled as it instantly closed up. "He was able to damage me," she thought. "You're fast." The air detonated. Velgrind vanished in a spiral of red flame. The sky cracked as her fist tore upward, flame coated in her aura condensed so tightly it bent the air. Loki tilted sideways mid-air, barely clearing the strike. The shockwave still clipped him, sending him spinning backward through 3 layers of cloud before stabilizing. He righted himself smoothly. "We acknowledge the improvement." Velgrind was already there. Her knee drove into his ribs. The impact boomed across the forest, flattening trees in expanding circles. Loki shot downward, struck the ground, and skipped across it like a stone over water before carving a deep canyon through soil and stone. He rose from the debris without hurry as a thin line of blood trailed from his lip. Interesting, he thought before the wound regenerated. Velgrind descended with her palm glowing red. A sphere of dense, compressed stellar dragon flame formed in a narrow arc. She thrust it forward, and the forest lit up red. Loki raised 2 fingers. Light bent around the sphere, splitting it into 2. The dragon flame sheared into mirrored halves that curved past him and detonated miles above, punching holes in the cloud layer. He stepped forward through the fading heat as golden constructs unfolded behind him, thin, blade-like arcs of condensed light rotating slowly. They fired. Velgrind crossed her arms. The first blade struck and detonated against her. The second slipped past her guard and carved across her shoulder. Blood scattered, and Velgrind froze. This attack. Is he targeting my soul? She flexed her hand once, the wound didn't regenerate instantly. Her eyes sharpened. This just goes to show how powerful he is in this state. To injure me, a true dragon, even if I'm not in dragon form, is incredible. Loki hovered with his expression unchanged. Defending against us is pointless. The remaining blades reformed around him. Just stand there as we deliver judgment on behalf of our master. Velgrind exhaled slowly, then her aura exploded outward fully. Scarlet fire engulfed the sky. Suddenly, the temperature spiked violently, then stopped. A white flash descended from above like falling snow. Velzad reappeared at the edge of the battlefield, drifting from the mountain Loki had launched her into earlier. Her expression was calm as she raised one hand. The air crystallized. A spherical barrier formed instantly around the battlefield, frost and flame intertwining along its inner surface. The forest outside the perimeter stilled, while pressure inside multiplied. Velzad's voice was quiet. "I've placed a barrier. This way we can go all out." Velgrin didn't look at her. "Good. Try not to get launched away again." Velzad's eyes shifted to Loki. "You know, I miss the actual Loki. You are not interesting at all. Give him back." Loki's wings flexed once. "We are aware. We cannot replicate the brilliance of our master." Velgrind moved again, and this time Velzad moved with her. Flame and frost surged together. Velgrind attacked from the front with fists and knees wrapped in fire, each strike heavy enough to rupture mountains. Velzad altered the field itself, space thickened where Loki attempted to dodge, air crystallized into invisible barriers, and his movement corridors narrowed. It was a coordinated hunt. Velgrind's punch grazed his jaw, while Velzad's freezing wave struck his flank simultaneously. Gold light flickered, and Loki retaliated. He blurred forward, his body dissolving into photons for a split second before reappearing behind Velzad. A thin, silent beam lanced from his palm. Velzad turned just enough for the beam to pierce her shoulder. Not deeply, but it pierced. Her breath caught faintly. "It pierced me." Velgrind's eyes widened a fraction. That wasn't physical. Velzad placed a hand over the wound. "It bypasses resistance." Loki tilted his head slightly. "We told you, didn't we? Defending is pointless." Velgrind roared. She gathered a massive spiral of dragon flame behind her, not released outward, but compressed inward around her arm. The air screamed as temperature and density spiked beyond natural law. Velzad mirrored her on the opposite side, condensing absolute zero into a spear of white silence. They attacked simultaneously, and Loki met them head-on. Light erupted outward in layered rings. Photon shields formed and collapsed instantly under pressure. His wings burned brighter as his output rose in sharp increments. The collision shattered the sky inside the barrier. Flame devoured light, ice froze flame, and light carved ice. The barrier trembled violently, but held. Velgrind drove through the explosion and slammed her elbow into Loki's chest. The strike finally bent him backward, driving him through the air. Velzad followed with a palm strike to his spine. The twin impacts launched him downward. He crashed into the forest floor, the impact swallowing acres of terrain in a white-gold blast. For a moment, there was silence as smoke rolled upward. Velzad's eyes narrowed. The smoke split, and Loki rose again. One wing flickered unevenly for half a second before stabilizing. His head tilted slightly. "Struggling is pointless. We can predict your future." Golden sigils rotated behind his pupils. "And we assure you without a shadow of a doubt." Light condensed around his limbs, denser than before. "That it ends in defeat." Velgrind smirked. "Try it." Loki vanished. He reappeared between them, kicking Velgrind upward while simultaneously releasing a horizontal beam that forced Velzad to erect layered ice walls mid-flight. The beam sliced through three before dispersing. Velgrind flipped mid-air and dove back down, her fist colliding with Loki's guard. The impact rang like metal against metal. He pushed back harder. For the first time, Velgrind's arm trembled slightly under the pressure. Velzad froze the air around Loki completely, causing his movement to stutter just slightly. Velgrind capitalized, driving a knee into his abdomen that folded space itself. Golden light flared violently in response, blasting both dragons backward. They recovered instantly. All three hovered again. Velzad spoke quietly. "He is very powerful." Velgrind nodded once. "But not overwhelmingly." They moved again. The barrier pulsed as three apex existences collided once more, flame spiraling against frost, light carving through both. The Jura forest groaned beneath the contained apocalypse. Far away in El Dorado, the tremor that rolled across the western nations wasn't physical, it pressed against the soul. It was a distant collision of absolutes, flame, frost, and light. The crystal goblet in Guy's hand cracked. He rose slowly from his throne, his scarlet eyes narrowing toward the distant horizon. I think they've caused enough ruckus. The air bent subtly around him. Any more of this and they might destroy the West. His smile sharpened faintly. I have to step in. Nearby, Misery straightened immediately. Guy-sama. Across the chamber, Leon Cromwell exhaled lightly, golden eyes reflecting the shifting pressure in the air. That Loki seems powerful, Leon said calmly. Can you stop him? Guy's gaze slid toward him. Who, he asked softly, do you think you're talking to? The temperature in the hall dropped a degree. From a nearby couch, a lazy voice cut in. Guess I'll go as well. Silence fell as every head turned. Dino pushed himself upright with a sigh, stretching his arms over his head like someone inconvenienced by mild rain. Rain blinked. You, she said flatly. Dino, the lazy freeloader, is actually going to do something. Dino scratched the back of his head. Well, it's not like I have a choice. An angel is involved. Rain froze, then slowly looked around the chamber with widening eyes. Is the world ending or something? Guy chuckled. Well then, Dino. I won't stop you. He turned slightly, issuing commands as casually as breathing. All right. Dino and I will head to the Jura forest to deal with the real Loki. His eyes flicked toward Rain, Misery, and Leon. You three will head to Lubelius to assist Luminous. Rain recoiled. Who? Guy-sama, do we have to? Understood, Guy-sama, Misery cut in instantly, bowing. Rain turned to her with pure betrayal in her eyes. Traitor! Leon folded his arms. I'm sorry, Guy, he said evenly, but I fail to see why I should do anything. I have nothing to do with Lubelius. Guy tilted his head, his smile almost gentle. Do it for me, please, Leon. Leon's eyes narrowed slightly. Guy continued, besides, if Lubelius falls, do you think he won't come after other countries? El Dorado could be next. A brief pause followed before Leon clicked his tongue. Fine. Guy's smile widened. Thank you. As a reward, I'll even strip for you. Leon didn't blink. I'll pass. Guy's laughter echoed softly through the palace as space began to distort around him. Back at the Jura forest, the sky fractured again. The barrier shimmered like a translucent star enclosing the battlefield. Within it, silence held for half a breath. Loki hovered in the center of a ruined clearing, gold radiance flowing from him in steady waves. One wing flickered briefly, then corrected itself with mechanical precision. Across from him, the two sisters watched. Then, the air warped. Scarlet light surged outward, expanding and reshaping as Velgrind shed her smaller form. Flame spiraled upward as an enormous crimson dragon. Opposite her, frost crystallized across the heavens. Velzard expanded into a vast white dragon, wings stretching wide as absolute zero bled into the air. Snow spiraled upward instead of falling. The barrier groaned under their combined presence. Velgrind's voice thundered across the enclosed sky. Well then, fake Loki. It seems you are over-reliant on that light magic of yours. Her massive eye narrowed. But can it pierce these scales? Velzard's tone was colder. A fake shall always be a fake. Loki is a versatile combatant. Compared to this version that only uses light attacks, I shall not lose to such an opponent. Loki regarded them both as golden light reflected in twin draconic pupils. Indeed, he replied calmly. Our master is a man of deep versatility. His wings shifted slightly. But he also happens to be a beacon of light. Radiance intensified around him. We do not wish to stain His Majesty by using anything other than light. Velgrin's claws flexed, and Velzard's frost thickened. Loki tilted his head. But perhaps you are correct. For the first time since the battle began, his posture changed, subtly, less rigid, less perfectly aligned. Almost playful. To defeat you too, he continued, we will have to borrow the personality of our master. The golden aura pulsed irregularly. He shall forgive us. Velzard's massive eye narrowed. What are you talking about? The light around Loki flickered, then bent in unnatural ways. The broken trees below straightened halfway before snapping back. A crater reversed for a split second before reality corrected itself violently. Loki's smile curved slightly wider than before. Our master's skill works in tandem with his personality. The sky above warped as if painted over with fresh color. The power to alter reality to his vision. Flame and frost pressed harder against the barrier. Velgrin's voice lowered. Explain. It would be easier to say, he answered calmly, according to the logic of our master's first world. For a fraction of a second, gravity hesitated, wind reversed, and a crack zigzagged across the sky like an ink stroke. It is, Loki concluded softly, the power of Toon Force. Chapter 103, The Power of Toon Force. The barrier enclosing the battlefield pulsed once with a heavy thrum. Flame churned. Frost thickened. And in the center of it all, Loki stretched, not simply stretched, but actually rubbered outward. His arms extended far beyond what they should with a loose boing sound before snapping back into place. He rolled his shoulders and cracked his neck side to side. All right, he said brightly, his golden eyes curved in delight. We tried the serious approach. He looked up at the two colossal dragons blotting out the sky. Let's try ours. And then he laughed. Ha 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 ha. Velgrin moved first. A dragon's roar detonated across the barrier. A column of compressed stellar flame large enough to swallow mountain ranges devoured the sky. Air melted, space warped, and the forest below evaporated into a crimson horizon. Velzard layered it instantly. Absolute zero engulfed the inferno, red and white twisting together into annihilation incarnate. The impact struck, and the barrier trembled as cracks flashed across its inner surface. Silence followed as smoke rolled outward. Velgrin's massive eye narrowed. It connected. Then, a hand poked out of the smoke, followed by another. Loki stepped forward coughing dramatically, fanning the air in front of his face. Cough. Cough. Woo. That's hot. And cold. His hair was singed. He smacked it flat, but it popped right back up. Oh, that was a good effort. Velgrin froze, and Velzard's pupils thinned. Velgrin dove. Claws like city-sized guillotines tore down through space. Velzard froze the battlefield solid mid-flight. Ice consumed the sky, air crystallized, and even sound seemed to halt. Loki looked down at the frost gripping his legs. He wiggled his foot with a soft click, and the ice shattered. Velgrin's claw descended. Loki reached up and caught it. The collision echoed loudly as his arm bent like rubber. The force traveled through him in a visible ripple before snapping back with a loud boing. Velgrin's eye widened. Loki's grin split wide. It's going to take a lot more than that to bring me down. He flicked her claw. Ping. Velgrin flew backward as if swatted by a continent, slamming into the barrier as cracks spread. Velzard inhaled sharply, then unleashed a storm of absolute zero breath. The wave devoured everything in its path. Loki inhaled, slurping the frost right into his mouth. He puffed his cheeks, turned, and spat it back out. The frozen blast rocketed toward Velzard. She twisted aside as it grazed her wing, exploding into shards of ice. Velgrin roared, gathering flame so dense the air turned black, while Velzard layered gravity compression beneath it. the two attacks collided into a singularity of annihilation. Loki looked between them, reached behind his back, and pulled out a comically oversized golden hammer made of solid light. He weighed it in his hand. 1,000 tons. The attack struck him, engulfing everything in an explosion. When the smoke cleared, Loki stood there holding a tiny wooden sign. It read, "No you." The combined dragon breath rebounded instantly. Velgrin twisted aside as her own flame scorched her flank, while Velzad's frost crystallized her wingtip before she shattered it off mid-air. Both dragons paused. Velzad's voice echoed coldly. "What is happening here? None of it makes sense." Loki tossed the sign aside. "That was fun. Let's do it again." Then he vanished. Velgrin blinked. Tap. He stood right on her snout, poking it repeatedly. Boop. 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 "You're very intimidating up close, you know that." Her jaws snapped shut with a chomp. Silence followed, and she swallowed. Velzad watched closely. Velgrin smirked internally, but then her stomach suddenly bulged and glowed gold. A muffled voice echoed from inside. "Knock knock. Let me out, hey." Velgrin's eye widened. "Impossible." Her stomach twisted and turned until Loki burst out of her side in a harmless explosion of glittering light, spinning mid-air. The wound cauterized instantly, but her core trembled. He had touched her soul directly. Velzad descended, abandoning her dragon form mid-air as frost spiraled violently around her humanoid shape. Velgrin followed, her crimson aura roaring as she condensed back into human form. "It seems logic will not work here, sister," Velzad said calmly, her eyes razor-sharp. "How do we even fight such a thing?" They attacked simultaneously. Velgrin's fist tore forward with a heavy thud, while Velzad's palm struck toward his heart. Loki ducked, but his upper body detached and slid aside while his lower half remained planted. Velgrin blinked as his torso reattached upside down. "Missed me." Velzad's strike pierced clean through his chest, but she froze when there was no blood or resistance. Loki looked down at the hole. "Ah. That looks serious." He reached inside himself and pulled out a glowing golden thread. Velzad felt it instantly, her eyes widening. "That thread. This is yours," Loki said, giving it a tug. Boing. Velzad staggered as frost spiraled wildly out of control, her soul shuddering violently. Velgrin roared and spun, her kick connecting cleanly this time. Bam! Loki flew across the battlefield, hit the barrier with a loud slap, and flattened like paint. Slowly, he peeled himself off with a sticky sound and popped back into shape. Boing! Okay, he laughed, rubbing his cheek. That one actually hurt. He snapped his fingers. Snap! The sky instantly turned into a checkerboard, and gravity rotated sideways with a loud F-whip. Velgrin stumbled as down became left, while Velzad corrected instantly by freezing space into platforms. Loki ran across the sky horizontally, laughing loudly as his feet tapped against the air. Ha 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 ha. You two are amazing, he called. This is so much fun. Velgrin adapted mid-motion with her aura flaring hotter, while Velzad froze sections of altered space with precise control. Slowly, they were adjusting. It was simple, really, against Loki, throw all logic out the window. Velgrin said, but that's easier said than done. Loki grinned wider. That's the spirit. He clapped. A massive golden spotlight dropped from nowhere, shining directly on Velgrin. A giant glowing mallet materialized above her. Velgrin's eyes widened. Don't you? Bonk! The hammer slammed down, and her scarlet aura shattered outward. Velgrin dropped to one knee mid-air, coughing violently, not from physical impact, but from the tremor in her core. Velzad surged forward in fury, only for Loki to grab her wrist mid-charge. Her arm stretched out like rubber before he let go, snapping her back violently with her breathing finally uneven. Flame surged higher, frost sharp and colder, and they attacked again. Blows began connecting as the contained apocalypse roared on.